Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. The podcast where, yes, as you can see, we are missing our prior brand. We are missing the slanderous one. He's out there in Jersey at an anime event selling his wares as he is. We might see and or hear from him. I'm not sure. But if he is hearing us, shout out to the great Everborn Saga. We will most likely be in touch with him soon enough. I am, of course, your host, Mr. K. Asante, TK Asante, on all the places that we communicate. And as you can see, I am joined in the circle this week by a good bunch of folks. Of course, let's get this thing started. The one and only, the elusive one, Mr. Lucius Augustus. Good morning, sir. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, everyone. Some crazy things happened this week. Some industry-shaking news that we need to discuss. As usual, don't look for me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
You know, I swear I would like get you a shirt that says hashtag don't look for me, but then people will be able to recognize you with it. You know, see, that's different. But thank you for being here. Awesome to have you here as usual. And of course, whenever we ask the community to jump in, and we always want folks to jump in and have great conversations with us, we cannot have a show without calling on the one, the only, the one who's not on social, but somehow his presence looms larger than most, the one and only Hargi Chani. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Yeah, we've had a fun week. More interesting news across the board. Let's get into the fun.
That's right. And then, of course, rounding out the crew this morning, I am so appreciative because, you know, the man treasures his weekend. So the fact that I can get to have him on the show on the weekend means I am blessed. Thank you, Mrs. Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Boomstick XL. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on. Now, Mrs. Boom is talking with her sister, so I figured, you know what? Let me jump on to open up the show. I could probably spend about 30 minutes here, and I get back to doing what I was doing. I actually literally was editing videos as I was getting on here, and I'm, dropping 2 videos later this afternoon. But yeah, listen, it's great. Again, if everyone didn't see the tweet, I have been blessed by Bethesda and Xbox to have been sent a review code of Doom: The Dark Ages, and I've been playing since yesterday. Of course, I can't speak about it, but my full impressions will be able to be put forth on May 9th, and I'll be able to, show some potential gameplay after that. So, yep, I'm happy to be here. And yeah, Augustus, you are correct. This is, when you say earth-shattering, I really do think it's industry moving, changing, however you want to equate that, but I think what ultimately is going to happen is consumer spending is going to change, and I think it's going to change in a big way. But we'll get into that. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for being here. You know how we do on this show, man. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Let folks know we are here. Mr. Everborn Saga may jump in at some point, but he's out there in them streets selling his wares. He got the cap on. He's capping this morning. So yes, salute to him. But if you see him on the Twitter street, say what's up. You know, he's out there pressing the flesh and kissing babies and all that this morning. So, you know, he's earning his Everborn title. But you know what? Before we get this thing going, as we do, we're gonna talk news. There's so much to discuss. But I think I want to first off, let's do some housekeeping. Next week, I should let y'all know that this show may not be in the format that you would expect. As you can imagine, PAX is upon us. PAX East is upon us. So I may be in the neck of the woods of the one Hargi Chani, if I'm not mistaken. Sir, you're still scheduled to be there, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Yeah. So
yes, I will be there. Yep.
Absolutely. So next week, Saturday, we may not have the same format of show. Mr. Everborn Saga will also be joining us, so it's going to be an IRL party, right? So you may not see the standard GCP format that you normally do, but maybe we turn on the vlog cam and we walk the halls a bit and hang out with y'all that way. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, that's what's going on. And I see some folks talking about they from Massachusetts. Hey man, I mean, we'll see what the Twitterverse does. Maybe we meet and greet. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be interesting times. I'll be in Boston, so next week it should be interesting times. But keep an eye on the feed. May drop some stuff from PAX, and hopefully get to show some interesting stuff that we get to experience at PAX. So let's get this thing started real quick. And as we do on this show, we start with some games we've been playing. I know probably this is gonna turn into a gushing session from Augustus. I know you, sir. I know what's about to happen. So, and I know that Boomstick can't talk about the thing that I'm completely jealous about. It's fine. Not a problem at all. So I think I'll start with you, Hargeet. What games have been keeping you busy this week, sir?
So I finished up AC Shadows.
Oh wow, that is how did that end? Were you I'm not saying no spoilers. How did that end for you? Were you satisfied? Because I'm still in the middle of eating that elephant. Okay.
I mean, not really. But
okay.
But
you were not satisfied.
It's good enough, I guess. Okay. Like it's still too long. It's still too large a map. It took like 100 hours, and I do mean that literally. And I don't.
Were you like a completionist with it, or you just beeline the story? How did you play it?
Not a full completionist. Like in a lot of Assassin's Creeds, I would go collect everything, right? In this one, I left a few things, so I'm probably like 95% on all the things, but I didn't do everything. For those who have played it, there are little statues you have to go find everywhere. The little prayer statues. I think I did like 50 out of 60 something, right? So in that range, I think that's one of the few things I left. There's a couple of things like that. I didn't finish every little thing, but I did like pretty much all of it. I definitely like opened up all the sync points. I don't think I got all the. You have these little hideouts that you can also use as fast travels. I don't know that I got all of them because they don't tell you all of them. So you have to actually go, because you can buy the map, but it doesn't tell you all of them. So I have to go figure that out. But I got like 95% of everything.
In your opinion, did it start strong and then fall off, or was it where it started all the way through?
It was kind of the same all the way through.
Okay.
And the problem is like maybe it's just my memories of it. Like the Ezio story was so good. Like your peak level there, right? And then it hasn't really reached that. There was a lot of fun when you played Odyssey and Origins because it kind of went through a different arena that was more interesting. It was just a lot of civilization there. In Japan, it was about a war, and it's like, okay, this is cool, but it doesn't have the same flair. There's just something about it where it just doesn't have the same flair, right? The things that you did with like certain historical characters just didn't feel the same way. I'm sure they did the best they could, but I don't know. It just it has not felt like Assassin's Creed for a long time to me. So that is kind of the
so you're an AC purist, is what you're saying.
I like the old style. I like the old style.
I feel you.
Like,
okay.
I'm in a crowd, suddenly somebody just falls, and like nothing to see here, and that's the way I like it, right?
Okay.
Okay. This is all still very RPG like. But anyway,
yes.
The other thing I did is I started South of Midnight, and
nice. Okay.
Probably like halfway through that. It's okay. It's like the combat's meh, but the story's okay. It's pretty interesting, I guess. But yeah, whatever. I'm going through that now.
Okay. All right. How about you, Lucius? Well, you know what? No, I'll save Lucius to the end because I know what Lucius is going to do. Boomstick, sir. you always got a bunch of stuff in your to-do list here, including some multiplayers and everything. What besides on the things you can talk about?
I've been playing. Obviously, I'm playing Doom. I can't say anything about it, but I am, like I said, I am incredibly.
He's rubbed our nose in it again for the second time. You see what he just did there?
You know why? You know why? Because you don't get an opportunity to say this, but it's for me as the channel being as small as it is, and I'm not being facetious, folks. Like I'm being like for real. Like the channel is relatively small when you consider and you look across the way to the Colt Eastwoods and the Randall Thors, and there's so many, and they're getting these codes, and obviously at 100,000 plus subscribers, that's where you want to have your codes. fact that the channel is recognized and they reach out to, I didn't have to reach out to Bethesda. They actually reached out to, to us to give us a code. That's a pretty big deal. So I'm incredibly.
One day, maybe we'll be on that list, ladies and gentlemen.
I think you should. You deserve to be on that list with the kind of community work that you do for sure. But yeah, so that's one thing I'm playing. I can't talk about. I am playing Expedition 33, which at every turn seems to just continue to get better. I don't really think people, and I really hope that. Look, the truth of the matter is that the physical copies have sold out everywhere. Word of mouth is working, right? It has an incredible 92 meta. It's tied for the best meta of 2025 with Blueprints, which is amazing. Again, another Game Pass, 2 Game Pass games, by the way. And the way that this thing is layered, it's layered in such a way where, as a player, you pick up your controller and you're sitting in front of your screen. And the layers that I'm talking about, which I have never heard anyone kind of break it down like this, and I hope you guys and gals appreciate what I'm about to say, it's layered in such a way that everything that your eyeballs see and your ears hear is brilliant. You have incredible voice acting, layered over incredible graphics, layered over incredible ambiance, and on top of that, you have a consistent soundtrack that is not the kind of soundtrack that you would normally listen to, but I find myself at times, and
there's some bangers in there, man. There's some bangers in there, no doubt.
Stop for a second and listen. And when you compare graphics and the very different but the same kind of turn-based mechanic, where you're in control but you're not fully in control, it's brilliant. It honestly is just absolute brilliance on the screen. It is why I, at nearly 55 years old, truly appreciate every time I put on a game. And again, I think a lot of us in the community are spoiled. We kind of want what we want when we want it. And we don't take into account, and I always do because I'm an old man, and I always equate that opinion to when I was 8 years old, when my dad came through the door with an Atari 2600. So I am very privileged to have experienced sticks and dots to where we are, what's on the screen right now. And
literally, and again, bloops and blops, like literally.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. So that's also, I'm playing that as well. Of course, I have to go in and I have to play Call of Duty. I am Prestige Master level 66, I think now.
This man, I feel like this is your midlife crisis. Some people buy like rock star cars. Other people put gyms in their garages, and others go hard on Call of Duty. Pause.
and you know what? Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I don't advocate for smoking marijuana because it's just not something I would do. If you do it, good for you. Good, I'm not a hater. I'm a congratulator. They have a new thing with Seth Rogen where Nuketown has now been turned into a weed town, and it's kind of like a hazy, weed-induced fever dream. And I'm like, okay, I guess and of course I bought the thing. Who doesn't want to play as freaking Seth Rogen smoking weed? Like, come on. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. But that's a thing, folks. So it's happening. And his finishers are so Seth Rogen. Like, he goes to shoot and he slips and falls, and the gun actually goes off and kills the person. It's amazing. Like, it's just amazing. But those are so that's what I'm playing right now.
Excellent. See, that is like as a person who tends to play those campaigns mainly, the idea that they go off in such crazy directions makes me go, really? Like, that's just wild. That and of course you hear that all the potential skins they put in it and all that, but they're really doing some interesting things with that IP these days.
I mean, Bluntman is in it, for crying out loud. So
there you go. There you go. Yes. Lucius, sir, I've left it on the screen. The floor is yours. Go ahead. Because this is going to be all about. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
This is a pretty good game.
Oh, come on! You're terrible. Come on.
What do you want me to say? You already let me say everything else. What do you want? What do you want?
He has not shut up about this game in the Discord for days. He will not stop throwing the flowers, rightly deserved, mind you, rightly deserved flowers at this game. I want you to do so in public. You're on Front Street, sir. Give all the platitudes. Go ahead.
I look at this game and I think to myself, what is actually necessary to make a good game?
Mm-hmm.
What is, because this game doesn't have the level of polish that you would want from a AAA experience, right? There's some issues with lip syncing. There can be arguments about certain cutscenes not looking good enough for certain
camera
things.
Sometimes clips
camera
here and
having
there.
Issues. Like these are the things that a AAA studio would have spent an extra 6 to 9 months on, just kind of tweaking and making sure that these things are perfect. But is it really worth it in comparison to putting all of that effort into the systems and making sure that like the ambiance feels well, and every single time that you're going from like location to location that it feels unique? And
by the way, I will pause for a moment and remind people we are talking about a French game, and when Boomstick talked about it, he used the French word. Lucius is talking about it, he used the French word. I guess this game has a certain je ne sais quoi. I'm sorry, continue.
But there is something about this game that I really enjoy outside of the gaming elements. Obviously, you know, I was speaking to somebody recently, and they called this game French Paper Mario, because in a lot of ways it takes the
Thousand Year Door
from Thousand Year Door and a lot of other games like that. So I definitely see it, but at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, man, like, this is the sort of game that Matt Booty was talking about, where it's a small team, ambitious, able to use contractors as a way to be able to get additional things like assets done and all that other stuff, and having a very focused team that you make sure that you're not spending a lot of money on. But I just do not believe that this type of game is possible to be created inside of Microsoft, not Microsoft specifically, but inside of a big AAA space, because the incentive structures to be able to create a game like this without the constant lobbying of other people from the larger organization, I just don't see it as feasible, as possible.
I'm curious. What do you think Double Fine wouldn't be able to do something like this?
I don't think a Double Fine fully underneath Microsoft
wants to. They don't want to do something like this.
Even if they wanted to do it, I just don't think that it is possible for them to do it. Like, yes, I think that.
So what about like Hellblade 2? That in its way is like this.
Nah,
right? a very focused vision.
Sure,
that they wanted to create.
Yes,
just like this.
But Hellblade is like a 10-hour experience. It's very limited in its system.
Sure.
This has very, very deep systems.
Yes, it does.
Act 1 introduces you to a lot of different stuff. And Act 1, many times people have said Act 1 is practically a tutorial, because the amount of things that you learn on top of everything else that you've already learned in Act 1, the amount of systems, the intricacies of the Pictos, the intricacies of the Luminas, how they interact with each other, like all of that dramatically.
Every single human you meet that ends up in your party has a completely unique, different combat system that you must then be introduced to and tutorialized, and then they have to teach you how to.
All of them are, despite the fact that every single character plays differently, they all synergize with each other.
They all synergize. It is so deep, these systems. Ladies and gentlemen,
this is a very
difficult
game to try to replicate, and I just don't think that anybody would be able to.
We must pause for a moment, because as I suspected, we are joined by the one and only, the one out there in them streets, sitting there kissing them babies. It's the Everborn Saga. What's going on, brother?
At the Garden State Anime Fest in Augusta, New Jersey.
Very nice.
At the Everborn Saga booth. I know I'm supposed to be with you guys today, but I figured I would just show off the wares for a little bit.
Very nice. Very nice.
All right, so you guys, I will let you guys get back to it. I just came to say hello.
Yes,
And
sir.
you know, you
Knock
guys
them
have
dead,
fun.
brother.
We hope
Boom,
you
what's happening?
We'll catch you next time, Everborn.
RG,
We'll see you next week, bro.
I will be, well, we will, but it will be at PAX East.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All
It'll
right,
be awesome.
people. Shout
Good
out
luck,
to the
brother.
panel. I will catch you guys on the rewind.
Indeed.
Hey, bro.
Indeed. I hope some people who are watching the show get a chance to get out there and go see Everborn out there in New Jersey.
If you find
You
yourself
have a chance
here,
to.
please
Yeah, man. It'd be cool.
All right, people.
Later, bro.
take it easy. No, but like I can't praise this game enough. This game, it does a lot of things well. It really does deserve the score that it has on Metacritic and OpenCritic. And I highly suggest that everybody plays this game. At least give it a chance. At least start. If you aren't pulled in by the prelog while you're in Lumina before you start your expedition, if you're not pulled in via that moment, I'd be surprised if you're ever going to be pulled in, because the beginning of the game is so compelling.
It starts strong. Yes, it does.
And one thing that I'll say about another game, what Hargi Chani said about Assassin's Creed, I somewhat agree with. I generally enjoyed my 100 hours in Assassin's Creed. I played it very much like Hargi, where I finished like 90-95% of what was inside of that game. And what I will say is that the ending of you taking out all the like 12 or 14 Shingaku
big bads. Yep.
Like that didn't really make me feel as good. But there's that's not the technical end of the game, because you also have the endings of Naue and Yasuke's story. And those are individual experiences that they go have. Like they have to go find themselves, essentially. And I loved both of those. I think that both of those stories ended well, where Naue has a good understanding about like what her future holds, who, what she gets to care about. Like she has an objective at the very end of it, which I won't ruin because it's kind of spoilers. But there's an objective that she has to be able to go do the things that she wants to do, which is fantastic. And then with Yasuke, you address his past. You see all the people who betrayed him, the terrible things that happened. He's able to get, he's able to move beyond the feelings that he has to be able to become the namesake that he took, which is Yasuke. Like it all, for me, those were good.
Also, so they did actually touch on the namesake he took and why he took it. Interesting. I look forward to finishing it because I'm still playing it through that, and I wanted them to touch on that. So that's cool. Yeah,
they do.
They do that pretty early on, actually, as far as how he became named Yasuke.
They show you why Yasuke is why he became, and like all that stuff. They show you that, but then at the very end, they show you him not only fully accepting who he is, but like the mission is called "My Name is Yasuke," and when he said that line, I had goosebumps. I was like, "You tell him, you tell him."
Okay.
So yeah, that
that's
part of the game was really good. So if I consider that the ending, then it was great. But if I consider the ending of the main story, I didn't really feel much.
Yeah, it's just not that. It's not that great. Yeah, and playing as Yasuke was very annoying. Like I like Assassin's Creed. He's the anti Assassin's Creed.
Oh yeah, he's very.
I had to learn that.
I had to learn that. Oh my gosh.
Yes. This is me running through the town, being all sneaky, because that's how you play Assassin's Creed in your mind's eye. Mumbling and fall. I actually started playing it because it was so bad. It was good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. He falls in the bale of hay and then falls out. I'm like, oh man.
Play him as the warrior that he is. So you like getting in the middle of like 7 people doing that like yell where you just start propping people up. Like it's very fun to play as Yasuke, but it's just different. And if you just like Hardeep said, if you are a stickler for the Assassin's Creed experience, then playing as Yasuke might be annoying for you. But for somebody like me who had no problem, I loved playing as Naoe because I felt like she was probably one of the best assassins that we've ever gotten from an Assassin's Creed. Her toolkit, her ability to like climb wall, all this stuff. She has so many great abilities that like allow her to be able to be the best assassin possible. And then you have Yasuke, who is just like Hargit said, the exact opposite. The exact
opposite, yeah. No, like, you know, like you have that vision thing that lets you see all the stuff. He doesn't have any other stuff.
He doesn't get that.
You have to make enough noise for the enemies to come to you.
It's just totally different.
It's the antithesis to an assassin, but still it works and it has fun. And the key is to find both of them. All right, so before we continue, Boom, I know you're on limited time. What I want to do real quick, because you and I have been having great conversations in like on a daily. I talk to Boom like almost every day, you know, on the way to work, we chat. I wanted you on this show this morning because we're going to be having some conversations, and I know you may not be able to stay with us to have those conversations. So I want to like give you the opportunity to get your bars off early.
Sure.
Now, what am I talking about? I am talking about the two specific conversations that we as a group will most likely be really chopping up for the next hour and a half, maybe two. We'll be talking mainly about the idea, well, three really, the idea that with what Nintendo has brought as far as them introducing the game pricing, right? And now, of course, Microsoft following the suit, and we suspect, at least I suspect, in short order, you'll hear that from a PlayStation in some way, shape, fashion, or form. I suspect that, right? We now are in the world of $80 games. We just are, by and large. Now it's variable pricing. When we say that, we don't mean everyone, but by and large, that's a standard now, right? So what does that mean moving forward? That's a piece of a conversation that I want you to touch on. Additionally, I'm not sure if you heard, and this is what we were talking about in the green room before you got on. Apple has kind of lost, or I wouldn't say lost the fight, but the where that Apple, Epic, and all of those mobile decisions have come to a head is at a place now where it's actually all roses for the competitors, right? They are now required to facilitate or allow third parties to be able to just have their own app stores and also be able to have their own payment systems without interfacing it. Now, why I bring this up here and why I think this is important is, if you think about it, this means soon enough, there's a world where we can think where they go, okay, now game consoles, sure, you have the PlayStation Store, you have the eShop, but where's Xbox's realm in there? Nintendo, where's PlayStation's store? How can you facilitate? Because that's the slippery, that's where we're going here, right? If you can facilitate that. That is a very interesting place. I think we need to have a conversation. So anyway, where do you wanna to weigh in here, sir?
I always like bringing myself and putting myself on the stand. So, Your Honor, I'm going to sit on the stand. I don't need representation. I'm going to represent myself just fine.
What do they say about a person who represents them?
Probably they're insane, but I'm going to do it anyway. I always like to, obviously being transparent with the community is something that we strive to do here on the channel. Right, the wins, the gains, the losses, anything that we're dealing with, we want to be clear and concise and honest. Earnest is really what the channel is built on. So when I have a conversation about price increases, I don't look to the community to use them as a test bed. I use myself as the test bed because I'm a retiree. And I have a great pension. I have great insurance, which is, again, by itself or in itself, the most important part of the conversation, because insurance in this country is so bloody expensive. So I'm very fortunate to have vision, dental, and great medical coverage. But I also have a great paying pension. Now, could it have been better if I would have done more overtime? I guess it could have been better. But the truth of the matter is that why I like to use myself as a conversation piece is because I support all three platforms. That's not PC. I happily buy games on PS5, through Xbox, and on the Switch. And obviously, in order for me on how I play games, it's Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation 5 rounding up the back end, because I only play first-party games and exclusives there. That's just what it is. I said in the beginning when we started the conversation today that consumer spending is going to be incredibly affected by these prices. I am someone that has over 100 Switch games physically and over 60 Switch games digitally. And a lot of those games are what you would expect from Nintendo first party. You know, Mario Strikers, Mario Baseball, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, you name it. If it's something with Mario on it,
I can't live without my Mario Golf, bro. On the go,
great.
the Mario Golf is necessary.
Freaking phenomenal. But the problem is $80 games. And I'm not saying that they are going to price out these games at $80, but at least we know a Mario game to start is $80. So I'm going to run with that. What that's going to do for me as a retiree who has a good pension, but also understands that the rent and the food shopping and gas for the truck and everything else has to get paid first, I'm not buying those games. And the problem with Nintendo is that their games don't go on sale. Third-party games happily go on sale. But first-party games, even right now, like if you were to go buy an old Mario game from 4 years ago, it's still $60.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So first of all, I think it's safe to say that everyone, including myself, was in a state of shock that Nintendo was the one to do it. And using your line, they did it because they can, right? Not because they had to, but because they can. And now we have this situation with Xbox where, you know, timing is everything. And like we've said many times before, they have a knack for stepping on rakes when they are in first place. Like there are literally 3 laps ahead of everyone else right now. You know, if you just go back to how excited the community was in the last couple of weeks, and of course, last week is a triumph because Expedition 33, Game of the Year, in Game Pass. Oblivion remake done in a way where it has now become the standard of what remakes are to be expected, right? After what they did, Game Pass, right? 2 $50 games on Xbox, third party, but of course, Game Pass. You know, we keep hearing that the June showcase is going to be the best ever. Hard to understand because all 3 of us were there last year in the seats watching this happen, and we were all amazed and completely blown away by what they showed us, and that's supposedly going to be even better this year. So they are really riding high. And then of course they shocked the world with price increases on everything. Now, the only saving grace from the conversation is at least Game Pass wasn't touched, but at this point, it's not about you know, it's more when, not if, that's going to happen.
So boom, just a quick addition to that part of it, right? I read this and I'm like, expected this, right? Because you know these things are going to happen. You see one happen and then another. It's like they follow suit. That's why I'm saying PlayStation is not far behind, because they see the market conditions, and then hey, if they're getting away with it, why can't we get that? So when I heard this, I was like, oh yeah, I expected this, right? But what I didn't do, I was like, oh okay. You know how I normally get my Game Pass on, right? I go to deals.gg. I find the good card that's about $25 or whatever, and then I stack for a couple of years. Right. What I did not take into account is when this news dropped, everybody and their mother went and did exactly that. So now I don't have any cards to buy at all.
Yeah, they're sold out everywhere. Like honestly,
everybody heard that message. Oh my goodness, we need Game Pass, and bought every card on the internet. It's all gone now.
Yeah, I'm good till April 5th of 2028, so I'm good. So
I think I'm 2027. I think. Yeah, I think I'm 2027.
I'm current, but the best deal I was able to find was it wasn't CD Keys, it was Aniba. Okay. And Aniba, I wind up paying $11 less for a 3-month card than normal. So, you know, again, we were used to paying $11 per month, so you get like $33 or $34. I paid $11 less than the $60. Is that a deal?
Mhm.
I guess if you buy a year's worth, yeah, I suppose. But again, it's started to dry up. So yeah, you know,
Mhm.
it's just.
Oh yeah.
But again, I don't want to stay too. I don't want to be too long winded, and I certainly don't want to stay, overstay because I got some stuff to do. But I do want to close out by saying this whole thing with Nintendo now moving on to Xbox and PlayStation quietly raised prices last week that no one talked about for their
Mm-hmm.
consoles in other regions. The week before that, they had raised prices with PlayStation Plus in other regions. No one really kind of talked about that because that's what the games media does. And I would imagine that next week or the week after, they're going to finally announce that the PlayStation 5 Pro here in the States is going to be $800, the minimum. And what this has ultimately done, I don't necessarily know if I can predict a 1980, 82, 83-ish crash of the market like it did with Atari and ColecoVision and everything that was left back then. And of course, we had that 3-year gap where Nintendo finally comes to this country. They released it in 85 with the NES, and then games are back. I don't know if that's going to happen. I am going to say that I think you're going to see a massive migration to Xbox Game Pass. I think the fact that you have the ability to play everywhere, and basically anywhere, and being on TVs with a controller and not an actual console is going to be more utilized. We learned in from the numbers from Microsoft's financials that they are hitting and really winning on PC for Game Pass, and they're also really winning in the cloud. More people are cloud gaming. So when I say spending, I think that you're going to see more people like myself. Instead of going day one for games, we're going to be waiting. If it's not an I'll say this right now, and you can call me a cheapo or whatever you want to call me, that's fine. But if a game is not inside Xbox Game Pass, and it's not something that I absolutely 1000% need to play, then I will wait for a sale. And when it's half price, I will buy it.
Boom. All those people that shame people about playing games outside the subscription service, ask them, when was the last time you bought a song outside of Spotify or YouTube Music or whatever? Exactly. When was the last time you actually bought a movie outside of Netflix? Like, this is the world we live in at this point. That's the way it is.
Ultimately, gentlemen in chat, I think consumer spending. It's not that it's going to change; it's going to be forced to change because if you support more than one platform, it's very difficult to budget in everything that's happening in the real world right now. Versus, I need this game for the Switch, for the PS5, and the Xbox. And I think there's going to be a lot of adulting going on in the coming months and even years. And I think, again, tariffs playing a big part of this, especially with the peripherals and the consoles. Like I said, it personally affects me because I like buying controllers. I have probably around 60 of them, but I only have two pairs of hands. I have a pair of hands. I only have two hands.
In this community, we call that pay pig behavior. Continue, sir.
Indeed, it is. No, there's no doubt about it. But I like special edition controllers, and one of the things that we learned is that if they consider, and Xbox considers a premium controller like the Doom controller to be a limited edition, folks, that's $90+ now. It's going to be $100. I have it. I literally, took a picture of me using it while I'm playing Doom like a big nerd. But again, it's I
love that game. Looks good.
For games, awesome. I will continue to buy those. For anything else, like Power Orange or Combat Blue, I don't know how anyone's going to want to buy those things because why? Because it's blue and this is Combat Blue with stupid stripes or something on there. I don't want that. So, look again. I think that this is going to change the industry. I think it's going to hurt the industry ultimately. I'm going to, we got to wait to see all the pricing changes come across the board. And then we got to just watch the quarters because I think you're going to see a massive decline in people spending for games. And I really, whether it's like you like to say, a canary in the coal mine or an accidental, situation for Xbox, they do have the most valuable service in gaming. They do happen to be on a trajectory where they're going to be able to be used and played on almost any device that has a screen. They are leaps and bounds ahead of Nintendo and leaps and bounds ahead of PlayStation in that. So do we see people start becoming smarter consumers and say, hey, I already get all of my TV and film from all of these services. Again, regular consumers, the normies, the casual gamers, they're not idiots, folks. And I really get mad when people say that. Yeah, are they on top of it like we are? No, they're not. But they understand that they can go to Netflix or Paramount or Peacock to watch this show, that movie, or this series. And I think you're going to see that if Xbox does the right thing by marketing, and that's where we run into a slippery slope because their marketing sucks. Yeah, whoever's running the show is just terrible. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't mean to be insulting, but my God, it's been bad for years. And this is an opportunity to really get out there and push the Game Pass conversation of you can get these amazing games, because that's the other thing. Xbox is hitting on all cylinders with first party, and we're only in the first half of the year. They have to get on this. They have to be better if they want to survive how this market is going to come crashing down, and that's just the bottom line. But listen, I hope that really does, bring a good, point of view for the channel, the people in the chat and the people on the panel. And I definitely appreciate you guys having me here, letting me do my rant. But ultimately,
Boom, I appreciate you being here, sir. It's unfortunate that you can't be with us for the whole show, because then there's of course talk of, hey, what's his name? GTA 6 is now delayed. What does that mean? But of course, if you're watching us, you probably watch Boom. You see that he's on every weekday. You know that if you want to know these opinions, chances are you probably heard him and Mr. Chani talk about it. What was it, yesterday? So where can they find all of your ongoings on this here internets?
Well, you know what? Mr. Boomstick XL on social, on X. I'm on Blue Sky, but I never check it because I can't do two of them at the same time. I don't have the bandwidth. But I am going to say that the channel right now, folks, is 101 subscribers away from 16K. 101.
Wow.
So we're close.
We have
close.
over the various channels we are watching, and actually even on YouTube right now, we have 101 people watching. So if all of you guys have not subscribed to Boom, go do so now, and he will hit that threshold. Please, if you haven't followed the man, if you're not subscribed, what is wrong with you? You got to be following this man. Come on.
That would be pretty dope if you could get over there and subscribe. But again, folks, have a great Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. A shout out to, of course, Hargeet Chani for continuing. And listen, folks, listen to what he has to say, because they're doing a real amazing community event for the watch party. I think this is him and Ben Kenobi are streamlining this thing, and it's something special. I want everyone that can attend to at least attend. And again, this is going to be something they're going to be doing moving forward with the blessing of Xbox, which is awesome. And of course, Lucius, he's always brilliant to listen to. So check out these guys wherever they're going to be, and I'll see you everyone on the channel this week.
Later, Boom. Always great to chat with you. Have a good weekend, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Mrs. Boom. When you see Mr. Boomstick on any channel or anywhere in the weekend, you got to thank Mrs. Boom, because he's eating into his special time. So thank you, Mrs. Boom. We appreciate you. But yeah, the great Boomstick XL, we appreciate him for being on and lending his voice a little bit to the conversation. But yeah, man, Lucius, I had a feeling that we would be gushing about Expedition 33 for far longer than we have been. Do you need us to revert and continue the gush session, sir?
Nah. Everybody knows that this game is good. They don't need to hear me saying how good it is. The game's good. Play it on Game Pass. Yada yada. I want to talk about game prices more than anything, and how.
Yes. We'll move on to those exact. But let me catch up on a couple of these chats to round it out, and then we'll head in that direction fully. Mr. Slow-Mo Backslap in the chat. Salute to you, good sir. He says, I have 45 hours in this game, and instead of finishing it, I'm doing all the optional content and the side bosses I can. This game is my game of the year.
And which one is that? Is that
this is Expedition 33?
Okay,
yes, that's Expedition 33. I think that's a so say we all kind of a conversation, because a lot of people that have tried it are very much in
now that
same-
GTA is
same
not
realm.
going to be here this year, this puts this game at a pretty good spot. Like it has a good chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's
Even
one
though there
little
are
obstacle in the way, and that is that PlayStation is putting out a game, and that's all that matters is that they're putting out a game.
Ghost of Yote ain't winning that shit, bro.
Yeah, I would give it an 8%.
It could.
Winning.
I know.
It
I
could.
don't think a sequel has ever won Game of the Year.
Yeah, but you're speaking with like statistical
Sure.
analyses that have
A Sony
factual.
sequel has also not won Game of the Year, right? Like I don't think.
I don't know, man. It doesn't matter. It's a
Ghost had chance to
PlayStation
win
game.
Game of the Year. It would be the first game. The first game.
So I think what Hargeet is saying
nothing
to you,
well.
Lucius. I think what Hargeet is saying to you, Lucius, is no matter how great we want to parse the data, there is the X factor, which is PlayStation King. PlayStation have game. PlayStation must win game year.
So the only thing that can topple that is a mainline Zelda. Do you think a mainline Zelda is coming?
Or a game that's so zeitgeist capturing that it's undeniable. So
Like
far,
Elden
Expedition's doing that.
Expedition's doing that.
We'll
And
see.
Ghost of
We'll
Yote,
see
I'm
how long
letting
it
you know
does.
right now, that game ain't gonna be anything special. It's just gonna be Ghost of Tsushima 2. That's it.
I hope you're right, because there's so many other games that deserve it. Like the top 3 games are all indie games, right?
2025 has been an incredible year so far for video games, and if they give it to a Sony, sequel,
you got
that would be some
KCD too,
fucking
right?
bullshit.
Like just that, and then
Hey, calm it down.
Sorry.
You get one. Real quick. We'll get back to it. Continue eating your Wheaties, sir. Calm down. Adidas 20 member for 12 months. Salute to you, good sir. He says, salute gentlemen in chat. Salute to you, great sir. I appreciate you being here every week, always showing your support. And then we have BKNY. I'm sorry, BT Maverick 707 with a really weird chat that I was like, He says, make sure y'all do all your app challenges and claim your points for more Game Pass. Now, actually, that's a very good recommendation. Even though these days they've kind of gimped it a little bit.
They've gimped everything.
They've
gimped the point.
They gimped it a little bit. Yeah.
Point allocation is harder to get points now.
Yeah.
It's the point. Once you actually do get the points, it's more expensive to be able to get the things that you want. It's just I don't know, man. It's barely.
It's been gimped. But what I will say, for a long time, I've been cobbling together points. Right when they gimped it, I finally hit my $100 threshold. So now I have $100 like Game Pass, either for Game Pass or next console or whatever, just sitting in there. I could turn it into an Amazon gift card if I so chose, something like that. But yes, it is harder to do these days. But if you do it, it is still pretty lucrative. Oddly enough, if that is something that you really care about, I also did get, and I should say, like I will warn, this is only for people in the States. The terms are trash. You should only use it on a month-to-month basis. But they do have a credit card that also, when you use it, the points are Game Pass points, just like this. And their points are actually pretty lucrative as compared to the rewards points. So, like, you do any kind of, I don't know, $400 or $500 major purchase on that, and now you have like $100 Game Pass points, like just like that. So they've been doing some interesting things in the background there. You may want to look into that if you care about those kind of things. But again, the actual thing as a credit card is not particularly great. You may want to like use it only sparingly. It's trash. Anyway, let's continue. J Mac, the great J Mac with $5. Thank you for being here, sir. He says people don't understand that Game Pass is the play. Consoles are getting expensive. Games are 80. Games are $80.
Yeah.
Games are $80. Game Pass is the way. Hashtag Great Beards. Xbox for the win. I honestly think you are right there, J Mac. If they didn't have a Game Pass play, it'd be tough, right? The pitchforks would have to come out. But the reason why this is one of those bittersweet moments is you can literally see they're kind of funneling you to Game Pass. You want to pay the $80? Go for it, or else Game Pass, right? Now, where my worry lies is they do that. You join the wonder that is Game Pass, and then they start slowly turning the temperature up in the boiling pot there to us frogs. And every week or every month and a half, like Netflix used to, $5 more, $3 more, and then before long you look back and Game Pass is like 30, 35, $40 a month. That's where the slippery slope, what we are worried about. Let's do. But that's that is a fight for tomorrow. Today's fight is, yes, the standards that is $80 games is upon us. And yeah, it looks, at least from the Xbox side of the house, I agree. It looks like they're doing that to funnel everyone into Game Pass. And by the numbers, it kind of looks like it might be working, right? Well, at least the last quarter's numbers are looking really good. We shall see what the influence of these price hikes and all of that have on the quarter numbers next quarter, right? Hollywood Rules, member for a month. Thank you, Hollywood Rules, for being here. He says, good morning, fellow graybeards. This has always been an expensive hobby. These increases make Game Pass even more the best value in gaming. See, I think that's what they were trying to drive home. And Hollywood Rules knows exactly what I'm talking about there. Thank you for being here, sir. And the Great Soil Tech, $2 super chat. He says, please like and subscribe. Listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about. And then, finally, not to be outdone, the great MJ Dark, member for 15 months. He says, Lucius, never bet against Astrobot Playbook. And Mario Kart World Tour and Gojima will win Game of the Year 2025. Also, hello, K. He always feels that his chats with so much slander.
There is that. Death Stranding 2.
Considering how low Death Stranding 2 rated, I very much doubt it's coming close to the 91 that is Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
I don't think that the score necessarily matters.
Not necessarily.
Apparently,
it is hard to beat.
It does until it doesn't, right? It does matter when you're weeding things out, and then it doesn't matter when it comes to
now you're proving Hargeet's point. You just proved it with what you're trying to say.
And that game will never be considered, right? But like
you just proved Hargeet's point. This is exactly it.
I still do not believe that
yes,
Ghost of Yote specifically will to do anything good enough to be considered Game of the Year. I still don't think that listen, Kojima has to go absolutely insane for his second game to really get that much clout to be considered a Game of the Year. When Death Stranding, let's just say it wasn't accepted for what it was when it first came out. It took people a little bit of time to truly.
But I believe it was nominated for GOTY, was it not?
No, I don't think it was.
Which one?
I'll check.
Death Stranding, the first Death Stranding. I don't think it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was nominated either. I don't think it was nominated. Yeah, it got some awards, but I don't think it was Game of the Year. I don't think.
Yeah,
it was
not the main Game of the Year award. No.
No.
Maybe it got because the music in that game.
Yeah, I would say. Although I would say, had they and I don't maybe me personally, I don't distinctly remember all of the games that came out that year. But had they put it on the Game of the Year list, I wouldn't have hated it because it was doing something unique and interesting. Whether it was for me or not, I can see how. And in hindsight, I've since played.
It indeed was.
It was nominated.
It was indeed nominated. Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. So it was nominated. Yes. Okay.
I thought so. Yeah. So it was.
But I think on the merits, it kind of does deserve that though, because it was a unique vision that had not been done at that time before. So
it was Sekiro that won. It was Control, Death Stranding, Outer Worlds, Resident Evil 2, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Those were the.
Definitely deserve that one.
And Lucius, I think you should read this super chat for MJ.
Yeah, but are we gonna keep Tom talking as if like Jeff fully controls the Game Awards? Or sure, he has some influence. I'm not stating he doesn't, but the cabal. We should be blaming the cabal more than anything, right? Like
but it's like his chosen cabal
because the what was it? What movie award did this recently? Where it's like maybe it's the Academy Awards, where it's like forcing people to watch the movies that they are voting for, because you can't be voting for these things when you don't.
If you don't play them or vote, yes, right, that's right.
Right,
yeah. And but what Hargeet's saying there is also a very salient point, though. It's his chosen group, so whether that group decides left or decides, it's his chosen group.
Yeah, sure. But what I will say is that if anything, we should force these reviewers to be able to prove that they've played the game. And I understand.
Well,
there are 9,000 games came out last year, right? So a lot of games came out yet, but I'm not asking them to play 9,000 games. I'm asking them to play like the 14 that are gonna be on the list of the game of the year stuff, because it's all the same repeated games taking up most of the categories. Let's not act like you beating one game doesn't just cover like half of the categories, right? Like, so it's not like you have to play 100 games or something like that. And if you're part of this ecosystem where you're talking about video games and you're putting your opinion out there, and especially for, I'm not going to name people, but like people who are getting paid to be able to show their faces and give their opinions on stages, if that is at least part of your job, bare minimum, you should be playing these games, right? Like if I have a full-time job and I can play these games, you can play these games.
So Lucius, because we were having this conversation, and you're right on point. Let's add another wrinkle to this whole Gotti thing that we're talking about and who could potentially win. And how are we adding that wrinkle? Well, we didn't do it, but Take-Two did, because they delayed GTA 6, which means a lot of games might be actually coming out sooner than we expect, because we suspected that a lot of them were sitting on it, trying to get out of the elephant's way. What do we think this means for the rest of this year? Do you see any trajectories changing? And I'll go right back to you, Lucius, on this. Do you see any trajectories changing because the monster that is GTA 6 has moved to 2026 now? Do we see games come out earlier?
I find it funny that Microsoft continues to push their games out of the way for partners. And then those same partners will just move those games to the same period of, because Fable, we're hearing a lot of rumors that Fable, it wasn't coming together as quickly as they wanted. So they used the fact that GTA 6 was coming out as an excuse to give themselves more time, right? That isn't to say that, if they got contractors and everything else and maybe push people to work a little longer or whatever, they couldn't have gotten it out. But they wanted to avoid crunch and everything else. And with GTA 6 coming out in 2025, they thought that they could move Fable to 2026. Well, guess what? Now it's 2026, and I am concerned that it fell in the same exact window that Fable was going to find itself in. So,
well, we technically don't know the window yet, and now, of course, it'll be up to the Fable team and Microsoft and all that whole team to decide where this thing lands, since they now have this solid date. Right, it would have been even more egg in the face had they announced it. But that's my point. Really? Right? It could still move, right? This is GTA we're talking about. Yeah, it could still move.
Rockstar has moved game releases in the past, like that happened to Red Dead Redemption 2.
But my question is, in 2025, we're talking about right now, and by and large, merit and otherwise, we think right now, today, I think it even overshadows Split Fiction by a small amount. I think Clear Obscura takes it right now. Right. To Hargeet's point, we don't know what Yotai will do. Right. And don't get it twisted. I am a Ghost of Tsushima fan, huge fan. I've played it on Xbox, on PlayStation proper, and on the PC. I love that game. So I'm there for it day one.
It's like an 81, right? It's an 81 or 81 open critic.
Yes, it's mid. Yeah, I'm there day one, right? And so this is not a play to say to slander it or anything, but even still, I personally think with the experience of the community that's going on and right now that we're all like experiencing, this is the closest to Elden Ring energy I've felt in a while. And this is to Expedition 33, right? So I think that it may still edge it out, specifically because GTA 6 is no longer in 2025. Do we see, and I think even Split Fiction won't make it beyond Expedition 33. Do we see other games come out that wouldn't have come out in 2025 to avoid GTA 6? I'll give that to you, Hargeet. What do you think?
I don't think anything is gonna like change its window, right? So I think games come out when they come out. If they're ready, they're gonna come out. But like, as far as the ability to now set your dates, now that's done. Now we know why. For Ghost of Yotai, they put out it's gonna be October 2. I think it was that they have for the release date because they knew, right? They knew that this was coming, and so then they said, well, what the heck, we're just gonna put it out because they had this little powwow with Take-Two and said, hey, move Borderlands out of the way of our very important marathon. That's going to fail. And move that up, and we'll give you a state of play for that. Even though we had Ghost of Yotei, we just did that in a tweet instead of doing a state of play for that. But well, so we're gonna do that, and then they must have found out that hey, they're gonna push this out, and like it wasn't like this wasn't like kind of coming, right? You saw nothing up to now in the year as far as the details of when it was coming out, what we're gonna see for trailers and all that. That should have happened by now if it was coming out this year. It has not. And so, it was just not likely. So we all knew it was kind of getting delayed, right? So, and so they must have found out. So they put so that's, I think, the big thing that's going to happen here. I don't think there's anything that's going to like shift from 26 to 25. I doubt that's going to happen because that's probably not a good idea for the development team, right? As it is, we've seen enough of these like fails coming out early and then you have to fix it bullshits. And why do that when you already have it slated for another? Now, the only thing that's going to be interesting is, are people going to get out of May, right? Or May and June, let's just say, right? Say like, and the reason it's May 26th, by the way, for those who haven't realized it, is that would be the weekend before that is Memorial. And they will obviously, just like everybody else, have the super duper extra special edition that's going to give you the earlier access, right? That's going to come out on Friday, so you can play it the entire Memorial, in the US. I don't know that matters for the rest of the world, but they get a huge chunk of sales here, and Memorial Weekend is going to be a big deal for them here. So that's why they're doing it, right? They want that bump up. It's probably going to be a $90 game to begin with, because if Mario Kart World can be $80, GTA is going to be like, fuck you, Mario Kart. We're going.
That's your one. Continue.
So, we're not allowed to swear. Sorry.
You get one. You're done. Go ahead.
So we're gonna go one up that, and then everybody else in the world will one up that. So, but it's probably gonna be at least 80 now. Like, do we expect it to be 70 at this point? We expect it to be 80. It's gonna be an $80 game at least, if not 90. And then there'll be the super duper extra special edition that you'll pay extra $30-$40 for, and then there'll be a collector's edition that'll cost like $7,000, and you morons and then me as well will buy it. And
he's talking the pay pig activity right there. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Well,
we will, because we're stupid. We will anyways. We will do it anyways. They will win. It's what's gonna happen, right? So. But yeah, at least that's going to happen. That's why that date is set and Memorial Weekend, and they're going to have that extra super special.
Lucius,
going to buy it. So,
what is your opinion, sir? What are the ramifications of this final, like the elephant finally dropping at this date? Will it move things? Will it shake things? What's your hypothesis of the case?
I'm with Hargeet on this. I don't really see this significantly changing any dates. Let's just say your game was originally supposed to release in 2025 and you were thinking about pushing it to 2026. Well, now you have
now you're pushing it for 2025.
Can I push for 2025? Is that feasible? That was technically the original plan. How is the team going to react for getting this new information where whatever? But so I don't really expect that to happen often. But I do expect it to happen for maybe one or two games that, let's say, for example, they were going to release in January or February. Now they have to think to themselves, can we get this out by November? Right. I think that the problem with games being $80 and people joking about $90 or $100 games or whatever is we've already seen the market reaction from games going from 60 to 70. There are less people buying games day one than there were when games were $60.
Yep, absolutely.
And that a lot of those people started playing more free-to-play games. They started playing older games. If you've been paying attention to the reports from Circana for the past year, everything's been indicating this. So when you now move to $80 as being the AAA standard, what happens then, right? What are we... How like by increasing it by an eighth in price, do you lose more than an eighth of unit sales from that increased cost. And if you don't, then that increase was worth it because you've technically made more money. But if less people buy it, then you're now making less money on a product that is more expensive, that you're trying to sell for more expensive. And it really does depend, because some companies judge their success based off of dollar sales, and some base their success based off of units. And the ones that base their success based off of units are typically the ones that will have huge sales at the end of a quarter to be able to get a bunch of units to like unit numbers in, so that way they can say, hey, we sold this many thousands of copies this quarter. And you know, they don't really speak about how much money they made because they sold all of those on discount. I would question the profitability of games at $80. Are you losing an eighth, or if you are losing more than 1/8 of your sales for the 1/8 price that you've increased it, then you're now in a bad situation. And you would think that these companies would think about this, but I think the main calculation really comes down to something that Phil Spencer said like 2 years ago or whatever. This is a very mature market, and you really have two options. You can either try to get more people to be able to buy your games, to be able to experience your games by putting them in more places, giving more people access to those things, or you can
find new ways to squeeze them. Yes,
the consumers that you currently have, and find new ways to squeeze them for more money. And I think that
what are they doing right now?
Yeah, I think they pulled the first lever years ago, and now
they're doing both.
Now they're the second lever right now. And I think that part of me, if I wanted to be gracious about it, being like, hey, you know, like there's been huge inflationary issues over the past couple of years, which have impacted profitability, and that's also impacted like cost of high talent employees, right? Like it's costing more money to get those people. So there can be an argument towards that, but I would immediately retort and say, well, I'm not making more money. The inflationary measures haven't made it so that way I have more money inside of my pocket. So you increasing the cost, I don't care if those are for legitimate purposes. If I don't have the money to be able to buy the games that I previously did, then I just won't be able to buy them, right? If you were somebody who used to buy 5 games at $60 a couple years ago, that's $300. How much can that $300 get you now in comparison to what it used to be able to get you? Not much.
Maybe a game and a half if you're lucky. One AAA and an indie. You know,
at $80, it gets you 3 games and some change. So
Yeah.
you're going from 5 games a year to 3 games a year. So that means that there are going to be certain publishers that don't have the most exciting games on the planet that used to get people to be able to buy those games because people were willing to take chances and X, Y, and Z. And now that the price has gone up and people are buying less games, then that means that there's a chance that they don't buy your game at all.
So, okay, let's add some of the conversations in the chat into this. Before we do, let me quickly add a quick wrinkle into this as well. I agree both with Hargeet and Lucius on this one as far as market conditions and what it will bear. I also think that the added wrinkle that they are probably looking at is like piracy. It made piracy, like back in the day when they were not in tune with the market, it made piracy run rampant, right? And it took someone or some business model to come in and become and get in tune with the market in order for it to be so convenient and so cost effective that it no longer was advantageous to be going off and looking at malware sites and all this other crazy.
A la Steam, a la iTunes.
Exactly. You see where I'm going. Exactly. But as more and more the squeeze starts coming in, now those folks that wouldn't otherwise do that now start having no choice because, you know, monetarily, not everybody can do this, right? And me, I may be able to do it, but I'm standing 10 toes down. I was fighting this $70 game. The $80 games are hilarious, especially in the digital space. No way anyone can justify to me that a thing that's a physical bit that has a stuff on it, right, can then now be digital and cost exactly the same thing, even though there's no shipping, there's no marketing, there's no physical at all. It's just because they can, so they're doing it. And as more and more of this proliferates, I see more people looking and going, hey, how else can I get my game? Because I still want to play, but I can't afford it. And when they do, they'll see that piracy is far easier than it was back when everybody was doing it. It is so much easier now. Back then you had to learn something.
Still got just as many viruses.
It's still got just as many viruses, absolutely. But I guess what I'm saying is, back in those days when it was running rampant, and it was difficult to do. Right? Now it's super convenient. If they keep squeezing, I see a world where we get to a place where it's a problem, because it's now anybody can do these things. It's easy for Tom, Dick, and Harry to do it. If you're squeezing them, you're gonna find yourself in a very precarious place from a business standpoint.
And this is one of the big things, because trying to get customers to be able to pay for something that they currently don't have to pay for is incredibly difficult. And yet they were able to traverse that divide with things like Steam and how the industry went, and everybody was more than okay with buying digital games and everything else. And now they're getting so greedy that they may push people back into piracy. And when they do, it will be incredibly difficult to get those people back.
Because now it's easy peasy to just get whatever the hell you want without paying for it. Before, the idea was, hey, this is far more convenient. It doesn't cost you as much, and you don't have to deal with all the craziness to get you there. Now there's not as much craziness. So if y'all are turning them that way, it may be hard to turn them back. But let's get to some of the conversations in the chat. Drake Williams, I see you in the chat. Good day to you, sir. Appreciate you being here. He says, Microsoft released Oblivion the same week as Expedition 33. So much for helping their partners. I think that's an interesting talking point. I heard that on the timeline for some time, but in hindsight, I actually think they threaded that needle quite well, right? Because I was thinking that as well at the beginning, like, how can you, Microsoft, this powerful entity who's doing this amazing thing, right, which you know is gonna like blow up and become amazing, how are you gonna let these people just put it on an unsecured WordPress site? That is so like trivial 101. Like, come on now, you wouldn't do that. In hindsight, it gave them the opportunity to market the game without marketing the game, because the leaks came out, showed all this hype potential, right? And then the game drops still in a shadow drop, and then boom, Expedition 33 comes and takes the cake as well. And even Expedition 33's own devs have come out and said, hey man, they really hooked us up. They were able to market their own without taking the shine off of Expedition 33. And both are now very successful, climbing as a result. So yeah, I was also susceptible to that marketing quote unquote faux pas at the beginning. But in hindsight, I think they did a damn good job. Everyone got to stand on their own too on this one. So, so there's that. See what you think about that one. And then we have Wade Johnson, who's saying to Hard Geek, speak for yourself, sir. He ain't stupid. He's all about that CD keys in the game flying life. You know what I'm saying? Salute to you, Wade Johnson. I too am not gonna be about that life. I'm all about the CD keys. I'm about the GG deals. They aggregate
when that
it.
collector's edition shows up, you know you're gonna buy it. It is what it is.
No, we ain't all pay pigs like that, sir. We ain't all pay pigs.
Is pay pig for hardware. He's not a pay pig for software.
I'm a hardware pay pig. Sure. And even there, and you know what? That brings up a good conversation, Lucius. Thank you, because even there, it's unfortunate that we're gonna have to start changing our behaviors, because call it what you will, these tariffs are causing massive issues. I was on deck to get an an A1X, which is the next version of the AKO Zoe, which is a damn good deal at the price they were selling it at. Add the tariffs, and it turns into $1,300 for a handheld. It's beyond now, right? This is affecting everybody. It is what it is. So I will most likely be using the ones that I can find locally or getting them used or whatever. All our behaviors are changing. It is what it is, Oh, wow. And leave it to Dr. Dry Rub back in the house, dropping ill codes, man. V Rising. If you remember, that was shown off on the PlayStation stage some years back, and people really, really took to it. It's been on Steam for a while. Great game if you haven't played it. Thank you, Dr. Dry Rub. Also, Anders, Magnolia. Blooms in the Mist, code for you as well. Thank you, Dr. Driver. He comes here every single week and just like sheds the codes into the chat.
He has a couple more, by the way.
Oh, wow.
You scroll up a bit.
Holy. No, this is the bomb right here. He got Expedition 33 codes in the chat. Damn.
Yep.
All right, man.
He also has
Hogwarts Legacy codes. This man is amazing, sir. We appreciate you, man. This is awesome. For all y'all who end up in our chat, if you happen to be in the YouTube chat and you get the code, thank Dr. Dry Rub, man. You know, and because of that name, I get to say that and not feel so bad about it. Thank you, Dr. Dry Rub. I appreciate you. Uh-oh. And MJ Dart, not to be outdone, he's here with $2 super chat. He says, K, Latin quarters alike have stock, no tariffs. we gonna chat, bro. Maybe the AKO Zoe gets replaced with the MSI Claw. I tried to get an MSI Claw. They're only shipping it in Malaysia to Malaysians. You can buy that today in Malaysia. America, good luck. It's crazy out there. And by the way, it was $7.99 that device, and now it's no, it was $8.99. I think it was it was $8.99. Now it's $9.99. Overnight on Amazon, on Best Buy, everywhere. Like the tariffs are causing game prices. So I guess I say all this to say, honestly, we will start seeing behaviors change because we're going to have to change, right? You're not going to be able to just go to the store and buy whatever you want anymore. You know, the used market is going to get far more play than it used to, right? All these secondary markets that used to be on the fringe by necessity are going to be coming to the forefront, right? Consoles that weren't as hacked before might start getting hacked because that might be the only way for you to get what you want. You know, you're testing the market, you're squeezing the market, and when you push them, they sometimes push back. This is the 90s all over again. You know, that's what I suspect is going on here. But okay, beyond that, a secondary question: how much do we think GTA 6 will cost? I'll go with you first, Hargeet. How much is GTA 6?
Well, at least.
Oh, actually, you know what? You know what? Let's make it even more interesting. How much will it cost? One, and where will it release day one?
Well, stupidly, it'll only release on consoles. I don't know if it'll have the Switch port available, but at least PlayStation, Xbox. They're not going to do PC because they want that double dip for some stupid reason, unless through some miraculous thing somehow Take-Two gets acquired by Microsoft and they force the PC port to happen at the same time and put it in Game Pass. That would be ultra fantastic, but it's not going to likely happen within the time frame anyway. So it's going to be consoles, and it's going to be at least 80. I wouldn't be surprised if it's higher, but at least 80 at this point. There's no denying it's going to be 80, right? It's going to be.
And we're talking about the base version. We're not talking about the super ultra mega edition that comes with the extra wig colors. No, we're
and the early access.
We're not talking about the early access edition that comes with the deluxe edition that then gets you an extra BBL for your character. None of that, because we are in Miami. I'm just saying. Right? So we're talking about base version. How much will it cost? Lucius, how about you? What do you think it'll cost?
$80.
You think that is the floor?
Yes, I think it'll be $80, and then the version that allows you to play it 5 days.
The BBL edition.
That'll be
call it the BBL edition.
The one that lets you play it early will be $100.
Okay. And you, what do you think, Lucius, about other platforms? Do you still think, even with the delay, it's still just straight up consoles? That's it, or do you think there's even a chance of it coming on?
Unless people
PC?
think 6 months is long enough to be able to make a PC port for probably one of the most complicated games in existence, then no, that game is only going to come out.
Well, okay. So the back and forth I've heard on that, and I don't necessarily ascribe to it or not, but I think it's an interesting conversation that they have always been in parallel. They're porting while they're letting the console snowflakes feel like console snowflakes.
Nah.
And then they port, and they, so there's a time, and with the delay it brings times closer because they were already working.
Unless you thought that that the PC version of GTA 6 was going to come 6 months after the release of GTA.
No, it was definitely not that.
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing in my mind that is accelerating the timetable that was already there, right? Sure. So if the PC version was going to come 1 year after The console version, most likely
it's still going to be them. Okay.
Case.
Okay. So, people in the chat, question for you: GTA 6 price. Is it 70? Is it 80? Is it 90? Is it 100? And I'm talking about base price. I'm not talking about the BBL edition. That's what I'm gonna call it from now on. I'm not talking about the Jiggle Physics edition. I'm talking about the OG, standard peasantry edition that you have to wait for Gen Pop release. That's the one. I call it the OG peasantry edition because Lucius calls it that. The peasantry edition.
Wow.
Anyway, right? It is what it is. You get to play with Gen Pop like a peasant. Everyone else gets to play early. But yes, give us your thoughts. Do you think it is going to be $80? And if it is, will you be buying it day one, and where will you be buying? Because I honestly think that GTA showing up is a big, being the way it is a big honking deal. Big honking scary deal. But okay. Let us move on, because Lucius, I know you wanted to chat about the implications of this App Store situation for a while. I brought it up early on with Boomstick, but give you a chance to weigh in on it as well, because clearly, this has far-reaching ramifications. For those who aren't aware, all the back and forth between Apple and Epic and all of that stuff has come to a head, to a point where at this point now, Apple has to allow some level of third-party support as far as app stores, including payment systems. Meaning there's a world where Apple's app store, Apple's phone rather, has to support another app store where they can use their own payment system that's not Apple, that's not Apple Pay, and they get no money from that. That's where we are today. Right. And that's a crazy world to find ourselves in. And yes, we know we're talking mobile. We're in the mobile world.
This is just a stupidity that Apple put on us, because it was like that before. You could be on you could be on a Mac.
Look at Windows. Look at Mac.
Entirely of anything else.
Absolutely.
You could be on Windows and do that. Linux, you could buy from anybody. There was no limitation, right? The platform was agnostic.
They were good.
Payment systems.
They were good enough to market and change our mental zeitgeist on these things, even though these things are just as normal computing platforms as all the others, and should have been susceptible to the same rules, right? They've been successful in changing that mental that thought in people's minds. But now, we're being brought.
To be fair, same thing happened on consoles when they started to go online. Right, you can probably say that was really the 360 era, right, when it kind of happened, where you can now buy online, right, and they had their own store, and that was the way it is. Now, it used to be the exclusive things was based on the fact that there was hardware limitations, right? The cartridge could not be portable between different systems, right? And then you got to discs, and you're like, well, wait a minute, well, now does it really matter? Because the disc just has code on it, right? So you could actually change. Now it's just irrelevant. It's all freaking x86. Right, there's some base level OS translations that need to happen, but ultimately it's the same freaking game that's running on the same freaking hardware. So you could absolutely portably buy it wherever you want. You just have to have a translation layer that virtualizes it to the hardware that you're on, right? So it's fair enough, right? That should be easy enough to do. So now that store thing becomes irrelevant. You can be on whatever hardware and have the same thing. This is gonna be an interesting one, but I guess as Lucius but the idea that iOS brought forward is this lockdown. That's not what it should have been.
Not just iOS, right? Not just iOS. The idea of the locked ecosystem brought this about, right? And because of that, they've just kind of lived in this world forever. Because to your point, consoles, to similar trajectory, did the same damn thing, right? And shout out to great community members in our chat, in our Discord. Yuzu joining us, and not to be outdone by the other Yuzu. The Nintendo ninjas own that Yuzu now. Needless to say, Yuzu's in the chat, and he says, "I feel like it's $70 for now. I don't think they would change the first version of that game now. Next gen, that's a different story. That is an interesting take on it.
If Nintendo is selling Mario Kart World for $80, you expect 2K." The same company that makes the basketball game 2K and everything else that takes your money, you're expecting them. You're expecting the people who own GTA Online to see Mario Kart World on the shelves for $80 and sell their game that is going to have literally thousands of hours of experiences in that game, and you expect them to sell it for less than Mario Kart World? Yours, bro, pass the pipe. You are something.
You already heard it. You already heard it from Microsoft, right? Xbox is going to bump their prices up. You think then Take Two isn't going to? Come on.
At least
like,
Microsoft.
Do you know
first to 70?
At least Microsoft practices the full gamut of game prices. They'll sell you a game for $40, $50, $60.
Yeah, true. It's variable. Yes,
they won't stay. They won't stay at that $80 constantly. But with somebody like 2K, you best believe.
You know the narrative that I have not heard yet that I feel like it's hilarious and I wish I had heard it. Why is no one blaming Nintendo? Because Nintendo's at fault.
Oh no, some people have been blaming Nintendo.
No. But hear my blame here. They should be blaming Nintendo because the moment Nintendo said, "Hey, look at Mario Kart World, it's $80." Microsoft went, "What? If Mario Kart World's $80, update that sticker on Forza Horizon. That should be $85. What are we talking about?" Right?
Well, I mean, to be fair, isn't that the case? Think about it. Like, Forza Horizon is so much better. Anyway, whatever.
Yes, it is. It's what they did. Anyway, but yes, and Yuzu, he wants more of the slander. He comes with more. He says he feels that the Epic should not win. This is bad. Now,
wait, why?
Hold on. Yeah. I knew this would trigger. Give me a moment. Let's get into it. I knew it. Yes. And Yuzu, I want you.
Apple currently captures billions of dollars
hold on.
revenue that they do nothing to be.
Yuzu, I want you to elaborate on why you think this is bad. But I will say, and I'll let you in as well, Lucius. I will say, while I can see people be turned off by Epic and their way, because he's very much an activist in his way, the CEO.
No, I get it.
And sometimes he comes out and he's a little bit too much, right? I do think ultimately what he is fighting for, even though he may not be the best deliverer of the message, because let's be clear, Epic in the background is being controlled by China and can be, because they're also beholden and they are
partially owned by some Chinese.
Exactly. And that has brought them some smoke before, right? So we know that these are not altruistic means, but ultimately what he will win will be good for all of us.
Yeah, it'll be good for everyone.
This is breaking the chains of, this is my locked ecosystem. Everyone is on this in the United States, and they all have to pay fealty to Apple.
It also doesn't force the user or anybody else to be able to make decisions that they don't want to make. The difference is, like previously with the current model, it was literally cutting into the profitability of so many different companies that if you bought a service on iOS, those companies were forced to increase the price by 30% just so that way they could cover the fees from Apple. But if you get those same services on your browser, on your laptop, and then sign into the service that you've already paid for elsewhere on your phone, you don't pay extra, right? And that was all because of Apple. The Apple tax made it prohibitively expensive for a lot of people to be able to do business. And this is including a lot of indies who, like even the smallest microtransactions, every single piece of every cent that you would make off of their store, you would have to pay for it. Now, it is reasonable to say, hey, you're utilizing their store. They have to upkeep that store, so you have to pay something. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
If I don't agree with the 30%, it makes sense that because you are utilizing my store, my distribution platform, that you have to pay some fealty to me, and that makes some sort of sense inside of my mind.
Then stop forcing them to pay fealty to you by using that app store.
The biggest issue is that you don't allow people to be able to have other options.
Have a choice. That's right.
When companies wanted to give people a link that would lead them to a browser, and then they could get their subscriptions on that browser, and it would be cheaper for them, and then they would come back to the app, and then the app would work perfectly fine. When people tried to do that, Apple like cut off their licenses. This is how the whole Fortnite thing started, because Fortnite put a link inside of the game where you could click on that link. It sent you to the Fortnite browser, and then you buy all your V-Bucks and then come back, and it would be immediately applied to your account, and it was 30% cheaper or whatever. And that That pissed Apple off, and then they cut Tim Sweeney and Epic's account from the iOS ecosystem.
So
it's been a
one thing, Lucius, and I hear what the people in the chat are saying. Let's just get this absolutely clear. And by the way, shout out to the great Slow-Mo Backslap. He says $80 is a standard for GTA 6 and no PC port at launch. That is his speculation of the case. I suspect
he'll
be
right.
Yeah, I suspect he'll be right. To this conversation we're having though, Dorian Gray says Epic believes in forcing people to do business with them. Let's be clear. What we're discussing here, and I think Lucius and I agree on this, is we're not saying that the deliverer of the message or the warrior in this fight is an altruistic or a righteous fighter.
Epic is trying to save more.
They are doing what is good for them and not what is good for us. No doubt.
Good for everyone.
It just happens that the Venn diagram right now connects. At some point, once this happens, we may then have to fight them because now they'll overreach, and then somebody else have to fight them on the other side.
Now people have an option. If you're a consumer that has an iPhone, you can continue doing everything exactly the way that you've done it. But now,
or you can choose to go elsewhere.
But now companies can give you the option of like literally giving you a link. It sends you to a browser. You save money as the consumer, and now you move on with the rest of your day. And the only
on my iPhone, on my Android phone, real quick, on my Android phone, I have 3 app stores.
Yeah, and the only person who loses in that equation is Apple. You, the consumer, don't lose. The company doesn't lose because they get the same amount of money, and everything exactly works. And in that scenario, you didn't have to use Apple's payment processing. You didn't have to use their architecture, their ecosystem to be able to do any of that. And at some point, as long as people have access to other app stores, then, well, now I'm not even using Apple's app store to be able to distribute my stuff. So I'm literally not even using their ecosystem. Like I'm not using their infrastructure to be able to get my software to their ecosystem. And inside of that, I can pay a dime.
Yeah. Let's talk a little further down that line, and I'll let you get in there, Hargeet. What do you think this means for console ecosystems? Because this is a short throw, right? If they win this, and I know there's a lot of back and forth, and there'll most likely be appeals, and this is what they do, right? It's back.
But Apple's already following the order.
Exactly, but now they're following the order. So with them following the order, now the precedent stands, right? And yes, there are distinct differences between the walled garden of a phone and a walled garden of, say, a console market. But I'm sure that with this done, someone will, the bright idea, the light bulb will go bing in someone else's head.
Microsoft's definitely going to look at PlayStation and Nintendo's ecosystems and be like, let me get some of that.
And go, so why can't I put my app stores there? Do you think we are we setting up for that battle? Where do you think this is going?
So first I'll do the mobile side of it, and then I'll go to the console side of it. So the mobile side of it, look, the intent here is that there will be other stores, right? And that competition allows both the developer and the consumer to have different commercial access, right? So you might get a better rate. Instead of 30%, maybe you get 20% or 10% for the store, and you get 80%, 90%. That, by the way, does happen. Like Epic gives you more, Microsoft Store on Windows, they give you more, right? So those stores might show up, right? And look, Microsoft has been waiting to put their game store on the mobile side of it, right? They wanted to do that, and then they got stuck because of this, back and forth with the lawsuits, right? They've been waiting. So this is likely going to happen. Now you're going to have an Xbox game store available on your mobile devices, and that will allow them to curate and give you mobile games from their side, and potentially have a Game Pass offering of their own, right? So Apple has their own Apple Arcade, right? You don't have much of an option outside of that because everything's constricted. That goes away. Now you have the option to say, I can have my game and eat it everywhere. It doesn't matter now, right? So if I buy Minecraft, I can play the mobile version, I can play the Xbox version, I can play the PC version. It's all one license. I'm all done, right? It translates easily because you have the same store give you that, that access, right? And you want to have a place to actually do the install, right? You don't want to have customers go figure out how to download an Apple application and install it on. That's not something you want to it should be through a store. That's the right way. That's the right mechanism. And maybe that means that that Apple controls which stores are in there to make that work right fine, whatever, but at least it'll have that access. So now you'll have different commercial availabilities, right? And that is something that's good for the consumer ultimately. Also good for the developer. They can choose to say, I want to go this way or that way. I want to pay 5% to get the convenience.
What do you think of Dorian Gray's
transactions myself?
Dorian Gray says, it's cool to know now I can go buy a building, stock it, maintain it, curate a customer base, and then some company can come along and stick their SHIT in it and sell it, and I get nothing.
Well, that's
not what's happening, though. What you're doing is you're buying a building, then you're renting it out to 20,000 different customers who are now renting that space, and then you're telling them, oh, everything you do commercially, everything you sell, every time you have a customer, you need to have that go through us.
Yes.
And then we're going to take our cut.
Not even that we're going to take a cut. You have to, every single payment processing, the point of service, everything, the amount of money, I get all of it first, and then I decide how much you get. That is what Apple is doing. They are the building with millions of different sellers inside of there, and they are profiting off of the hard work and dedication that those sellers are doing.
So guys, I think the building analogy might be a wrong one, because at this point they are the city, and they are the only one. It's basically like if Visa owned America. We are Visa. We own America. Only way you can make any payments in all of America, in your high schools, in your wherever you go, it must be Visa. And if it's not allowed in America.
Yeah,
because we own Visa. We own America.
It's like no. You gotta.
That's literally what's happening.
You have to have competition. And otherwise,
real quick, let's get the point. Let's get the point really across, because if they were just a building in that country, right, there'd be other buildings with other options. Exactly. But now Apple has gotten so big, they are not the building in the country. They are literally the whole country, and everyone must follow them because you live in that country. You got no choice.
Which, by the way, would then require, because they're a monopoly, right? They're a monopoly access method. Therefore, that would require government regulation. Is that what they want?
Yes.
Because that's the alternative. Yeah, that's the alternative. The better answer is allow competition.
Yeah, it's either let people compete inside of your space, or we're gonna break you up.
Yep. That's what would happen, and so it's much better for them because they know that's what it would lead to.
Getting broken up right now. Google is about.
Google's going through the same thing. Yes, Google's going through the same thing.
It's been cleared by the government to be broken up, right?
Like
and this is what brings up exactly what I thought in the first place. He is the wrong messenger because Epic started it.
Apple
because Epic started it.
Do it.
But because Epic started it, they are the wrong messenger to do it. It's kind of like when Facebook comes out and says, we need to be more proactive about security. You're like, you know what I mean? It's literally Epic saying so, and that's why.
Epic does want to create their own storefront. Apple does not let them do it, right? It's it's almost like, think about Windows, right? On Windows, you have Steam. You buy all your things through Steam. The relationship between you and Steam is just between you and the customer and Steam. That's it. Microsoft does not get any money. It does not get a dime off of any of the transactions that happen on Steam. You watch Netflix on your Windows machine. At no point does Microsoft gain money because you're watching Netflix. At no point, because you have Spotify installed on your Windows device, does Spotify now have to pay fealty to Microsoft in Windows. None of that happens. Microsoft creates the ecosystem that allows for the software to be able to work in the first place. And the way that they benefit from it is that they sell that ecosystem to OEMs that are building devices. They make it so that way they sell their own software inside of that ecosystem, and they try to put that software in front of your face as much as possible, as annoying as it is for me, right? But that is how Microsoft makes their money. They don't make their money off of the backs of any other company that happens to make a software stack on their environment.
And also add to that fact, the reason why they do that is because they've been forced to. If they weren't forced to, they would also be doing exactly what Apple's doing now.
Microsoft you think Microsoft with the market domination in PC, literally 90% of PC is Windows. You think if they wanted it, they would 100% do what Apple is doing right now if they were allowed to do this. But they're not. Because the moment that they do this, every government under the sun
regulated to get hell. Exactly.
That's right.
All
Go ahead,
right. So look, the first thing that should happen, and if these companies aren't doing it, they're just absolutely dumb. Is Google should be putting their store on Apple. Apple should be putting their store on Google. That should absolutely
everyone
happen.
should be cross-platforming.
Right?
Exactly.
There's no reason that shouldn't be happening because that's just a dumb move if you're not doing it. As a business, you should always be looking at where am I going to make my dollar, and if there's more Android devices out there for Apple to go consume, get consumers from. So why not do that, right? Go ahead and put your stupid store there, and people who have their library can switch over and then still have access to all those, the stuff in your store and may continue to buy from your store, right? So that is just a good option for you, equivalently for Google to put their stuff on the other side.
Let's remember,
that's just an easy one.
This is how serious this situation is. This is a lot of people are thinking about, oh, why is it that people take this so seriously? It's just phones. You have to realize 70% of all consumer transactions happen on people's phones now. Yes. So that means Apple
has become the platforming the computing platform.
It is a almost everyone. Why do you think they're a multi-trillion-dollar company, Apple? They like you were saying, Lucius, they just steal everybody else's money. They do nothing. They just take everybody else's money.
They have at this point, if this continues to go in this direction, Apple will not have to release any products and they will still be a $1 trillion company.
Yeah. Imagine to your point real quick. Imagine how knowing that they are a powerhouse Apple is in gaming. What was the last game they released? What interesting gaming initiatives do they have? All they did was curate a store in their ecosystem because that's the only way you'll be able to get it.
That's all they needed to do.
So all they did was curate one, and then to make matters even more enticing, they let the Gen Pop get festered with ad ridden this and that, and then they went curated ecosystem. All you have to do is just remove all your ads. We'll put a quick subscription on there, and now they have the likes of me and everyone else quietly paying for Apple Arcade, and they're making all of the money. They did nothing to earn it. You know what I mean?
Apple Arcade has over 100 million subscribers.
Yes, I'm included.
It is the biggest game subscription.
Yes. Now, real quick, Ty Talks, the great Ty Talks is in here, and he brings a great talking point. He says it would not be better for Apple to just allow storefronts on their phones as a concession, as opposed to letting other payment methods. Wouldn't it be better if they're letting them concessions to stores? Because consumers are likely less to download new storefronts. You know what, Ty? You're absolutely right.
But Apple did not want to concede that in Europe, in the EU, and so because of that, Epic fought really hard to be able to prove, hey, even when Apple allows us to be able to create our own storefronts, they are so malicious with their payment processing that it makes it impossible for us to be able to run a business. Because if underneath the App Store, underneath Apple, you have to pay 30%, and then underneath me, I'm only asking for you to pay 5%, but then Apple forces me to pay 27%, then that makes it impossible for you to ever put your app underneath my ecosystem because you are losing in that equation.
Let's address, and I love the back and forth in the chat. Dorian, appreciate you being here. This is the thing. This is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to educate, because myself, when all of this came about, not specifically the Apple stuff, but like mergers and acquisitions, these are the things that come up over and over and over again, right? It's the idea that you are no longer a business among businesses. You are now so outwardly powerful. You are now Amazon, right? You in the case of Amazon, the reason why they keep getting smoked, you can't own the entire store and still be a seller in the store, seeing who's selling what gets better, and then you undercut them, and then all of a sudden that thing that used to sell number 1 is now on page 2, and your version is on page 1. You do that, and then people come for you because you are too big in that space. Similarly, Apple owns the entire highway. They don't get to decide that only Mercedes-Benzes drive on the left lane. That's what they're doing right now, right? It's about their size. If it wasn't their size, this would be a non-issue.
Yeah.
Right? If we were living in a world where there was Android, Android is successful, Apple iOS is successful, Palm Pre is successful. We have all these competitors in there, soup to nuts, and they're all, Windows Phone is around. This would not be a problem.
Nobody would care.
Yes,
but because there are only two, and Apple has such a significant control in the United States.
That's
you
right.
got to remember, 70%
Google's the same.
All consumer transactions in the United States happen on somebody's phone. 70% of all transactions. Every single time that you tap your phone to go get groceries, every single time that you get some Uber Eats, every single time that you use anything on your phone ever, and most people are spending most of their lives on their phone, Apple gets a tiny bit off of that.
Yeah.
Every single time.
And to be fair, so does Google, right? And that's why both of these are being pushed at. But look, Dorian, just to kind of point out, yes, you can build a successful business, and it can become so successful that it becomes this thing called a monopoly.
Yes,
monopoly. You have a certain amount of the market share. In the U.S., it's above 60%. If you have above 60%, you're automatically considered a monopoly, and therefore the government can come after you. Right. So it is better for them to say, no, we're an open platform and you can put whatever you want on there. This is why Microsoft has been staging this. Now, to get back to the things that I was trying to get into for the console, right? So the console space, like Microsoft has already been setting this up. You already hear them. They're like, oh, we're going to put the Epic Store on there. We're going to put the Steam Store on there. We're going to put
itch.io. We're doing it. Yes.
We don't care. If it's the PlayStation Store, you think they're going to care? No. You know why? They would rather have everything and then say, oh, we're just an open platform. Now let me go consume and get Take-Two. Let me go consume and get Sega. Let me go get, because what are you going to say at that point, right? They don't care. That shit goes everywhere. They're allowing everybody to put their stuff on their side. They're going to put their stuff everywhere. They don't care. They just want to sell. They just want to sell. They want everybody as a customer, right? They're open platform. That's why they're allowed to continue to go and grow, is because they do that. They say, go ahead, put whatever you want on Windows. We don't care. We don't care. And if they merge the two, which is what they're planning to do with the next gen, right? That seems to be the direction. Yeah, you're just basically going to have an open platform from the Xbox side. They don't care what stores are on there. Go ahead. It doesn't matter. You're going to choose their hardware because the hardware is compelling, because the ecosystem is compelling. Now it's up to the other sides to say, our stuff is so compelling, you should come to us in our locked ecosystem where you can only consume from one store, which will then become a nice little problem for them, because if, say, Nintendo takes off, and like it did this time, 150 million consoles, right? Could you say that, hey, that locked ecosystem is a problem, right? And if the two big players happen to be just PlayStation and Nintendo, could you go into, say, EU, where they, between them, have about 95% of the market share? Could you say, hey, wait a second, why is it they're locked down?
And
why can't I have other stores? Why can't I play my Steam games that I can buy at a discount at a EU retailer like Eniba or CD Keys, right? Something like that. I want to go buy my game cheap on Steam. Why can't I play that there? What's the issue, right? And that's going to come up.
And Dorian's message right there at the bottom. Dorian, you are absolutely right. And when that happened, everyone said, "Yup, this is a terrible." And since then, they've been eyeballs. Like we talk games on here all the time, right? And whenever we talk games, what do we say? Oh, that Cyberpunk situation. Because as soon as Cyberpunk happened, what did they do? Everybody started paying attention to quality control. Similarly, as soon as I would say the MX the XM radio Sirius and the what do you call it, the AT&T and all those other the telecom mergers, that was that moment, and people went, we done effed up, and now we're going to pay attention. That's why this is as hot button now as it is, because they recognize that those things that what you're describing was a complete fail on their part.
And the United States is the only country in the world that has historical precedence of unwinding a merger, no matter how long it was ago. Like if at any point the United States is just like, you know what, this XM Sirius radio merger is not going as well as we wanted it to, and you guys are taking advantage of your position in the ecosystem, we're going to split you up. Like the United States has done that in the past, and they will do that in the future. So like you as a company, you can't just do willy-nilly whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Yeah. So you have to act when you see you getting a certain threshold. like Microsoft, you have to now start being shrewd and being like, we open, baby. Look at us. We open. Anyone can play. Because otherwise, people coming for you.
Switch 2 is going to be able to play Cyberpunk 2077 and a bunch of other AAA games. The thing that was able to separate the Switch from the previous argument during the Microsoft ABK acquisition was that
hardware limitations.
Nintendo, like the hardware is just in a different class because it's weaker and X, Y, and Z, and it's a different class of games. That becomes significantly harder to argue when the Switch 2 is going to be getting a bunch of AAA games that the Xbox Series console and the PS5 are also getting.
Yeah. Although, if you really want to start digging through the crates and really get technical about it, I'm sure that some lawyer somewhere in a courtroom would be able to point out that the process of getting the things to run on PlayStation versus Xbox versus Nintendo, even though they are far more capable now, it's still it's a different process and more labor intensive process compared to the others. It is.
But that doesn't mean that access isn't there, right?
So,
and that,
it is
by
still
the way,
there. It is still there, yes.
It wouldn't change
the courts
category necessary.
Yeah,
right?
and the courts agreed with Microsoft that no, Nintendo is a competitor, right?
Yes,
because they have the same price point, $300 for the lower end Xbox, and as a consumer, you had the choice, right? And the games that are there are relevant to the person buying the console. It does not matter, right? It's ultimately an access method for playing games, right?
Yes.
So that was the courts looked at it that way. They didn't look at it as, well, you didn't get this specific game. Well, that exclusivity stuff exists, so that doesn't matter, right? There might be exclusivity of some games that are on Nintendo that aren't on the other two consoles, and that does happen, right? And so you can say, well, but I only have that there. Is that not? Are they not competitors? Of course they're competitors. It doesn't matter, right? So they just looked at it, hey, as an access method at the same price point, you're able to compete with this market competitor versus that market competitor, and they looked at Nintendo as a competitor in the marketplace, thankfully, because I think that's right. That's the right place to look at it. Otherwise, you definitely have to say, if that's not the case, PlayStation has a monopoly in a lot of the the and that's not a good place for them to be at. It's just
not a good place at all.
They want Nintendo to be a competitor. They want that.
So Ty comes back with a message saying he doesn't trust Microsoft to be aggressive with the PlayStation storefront, while he does think they're passive, and he'd rather expect that Epic would do that.
That's by design, perhaps.
Exactly.
Who needs to be the bad person?
Walking stall and carrying a big stick. You cannot look. It is in their best interest for you not to look at them in an aggressive manner.
Tim Sweeney has no problem with being the bad guy to some of these companies. Right. He will walk in with a bat and start breaking things to be able to get inside the PlayStation store to make sure that Fortnite is its own separate thing in comparison to everything else. Like, he doesn't care, right?
I think that fight is next.
He is playing the bad guy because he knows he needs to play the bad guy, but he also knows that the good guys, sometimes Xbox, Microsoft, whoever the good guy is, needs to materialize to make this thing work. He's just playing his position, and he knows that his position won't be enough, but he's waiting for the other guy to come in to kind of, because it's all a game at the end of the day. They're trying to get the.
If I'm Microsoft, I know that this is going to happen, and all I do is say, hey, we're gonna allow whatever store wants on there. All we ask is that you give us a 1% platform fee. That's super low.
Yeah, but that could also still be, even though it's way lower than the threshold, that could also still be perceived, because what you're doing now is, because Apple has set the benchmark so goddamn high, you can now come in way undercutting everyone, and everybody will go, "Woo, so much better." But eventually they will come for you, because when that becomes the threshold, it's still too high of a threshold. There should be none, and they will insist on it eventually, right? That's like saying, hey, Steam, I'm not charging you anything. You can be on all of my operating systems. Just play a 1% platform fee. You think Steam will be like, cool? Hell no, it's over already. That parachute is gone. You fell out the plane. You're on the floor. Your body's jiggling right now.
Okay.
There's no way they're gonna let that happen anywhere else.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It is an interesting point on the console, right? Because right now they do that, right? So because they have retailers, right? You can buy a physical copy of a game, and they charge a 10% platform fee, and then the rest of it is, the retailer. So Would that continue? I don't know if it does or doesn't, right? So how do they monetize their platform and ecosystem? Well, they already do. They charge you a freaking annual fee to play online, right? So I suppose that is the way they monetize their ecosystem. And you will no longer get these like undercut. You get paid to buy a console thing. That's going to be gone.
Yep.
You have to pay them full price, whatever it costs with profit, right? That's what it's going to be. And so get used to these prices. You think these price hikes are a problem? No, they're trying to get you.
Oh, they ain't going anywhere.
Next gen.
Yep.
I think paying for online is going to go the way of the dodo. It has to, because especially since you're merging Xbox and PC into one thing, you can't expect people.
That is the concession. You're right. That is the concession. Next gen, when it all breaks away and prices are all high like they are right now, you'll be able to, I suspect, and in this world, this hypothetical world we're living in, where app stores become ubiquitous across the platforms, there will be no pay to play online, even on consoles. But everything will be expensive as hell beyond.
It would have to go. It would have to go away. Yeah, but look, I mean, I think that's fine. The cost was a problem when it first started, but I don't think that's even relevant anymore, especially to somebody like Microsoft, because they literally own cloud data centers everywhere. It's noise to them to run this service, right? So it really just doesn't matter. I'm sure they have excess compute cycles all the time that can be used for cloud access for their Xbox ecosystem. It's just not relevant anymore to charge for it. It's just free money. It's free money.
Yeah.
And they keep getting it. And it's like, well, why turn off the spigot, right? But at some point, if you're going to convert this,
it's free money. Just like digital games at $80-$70 is free money, right? Like it is. And until someone somewhere with a regulatory arm says, nah, homie, you cannot justify paying $80 for a digital good as well as that physical good, it'll still be that way. The
reason they did that was because there is a physical version.
I know why they did it. Yes. But that's their reasoning for it has nothing to do with the consumer, right? The consumer.
Correct. It has to do with the retailer. It has nothing to do with the consumer. Correct.
And we have nothing to do with it. So screw that noise. We have every right to fight for it. But unfortunately, because there's no regulatory arm in it, we get to yell in the darkness and they get to do whatever the hell they want. Real quick. Lucius, I really do, Dorian rather, I really do appreciate that he's bringing this, because I think this is super useful to have. And Dorian, again, I will say this: you ain't gotta come on cam, bro. Get a microphone, jump on the chat. I would love to have you on the show. You bring very interesting takes, and I appreciate that. He says, well, I consider Tim Sweeney a bad faith actor in many ways. No disagreement from me, sir.
Nobody.
He says, when you have contracts, do not break them, sir. These guys are useful in many ways. We're not ascribing altruism to them in any way. Do you know what I want Tim Sweeney to do? I want Tim Sweeney to build some kind of retro environment and then have Nintendo go, nah, fam, you can't do emulation. And then he'll go, let's go. He's a useful person in this space. We need people like this in this space. Whether they're altruistic or not has nothing to do with it. I need a person with a wallet to fight Nintendo on emulation. And until we have a person with a wallet, that will never happen, because everyone that gets into that octagon will fold like a deck of cards to Nintendo ninjas.
Yeah.
He is useful here. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead. I know you wanted to say something.
Also, like, let's make it very clear. The way that Epic did it was definitely showboating, right?
Of course.
They wanted to get in trouble by Apple to be able to post that video, to be able to sue them. It was all like a chess move situation.
They were setting it all up. Yes,
they had to set up all the cards to be able to play them the way that they
this was the Oblivion leak of Epic.
But at the end of the day, I don't really care that people on iOS get to play Fortnite again. I don't care that Tim Sweeney will make more money for his Chinese overlords. I don't care, right? Like, I don't care. At the end of the day, do whatever you need to do. But I, as a consumer, benefit from all of this because I now have more choices, right? I don't even have an iPhone. I have an Android phone. But even I will benefit from this, because now a lot of the things that that Google was doing on the Android side as a way to stifle stores and do all this other stuff. enforce their payment plans, and
they're on notice now. That's right.
Like that is going to be a thing of the past, right? And if you, the consumer, still choose the lane of convenience, then Apple and Google can still get you, right? If you still want
it's your choice, though. But at that point, it's your choice and not a mandate, not something that you can't shake out of. Absolutely,
exactly. And that's what's all important. At the end of the day, you get to choose how you get to spend your money, and you also get to choose how to engage with an ecosystem, right? And as long as that's your choice as a consumer, I'm cool with that. And anything that gives you more choice, I'm okay with that, right? So with choices comes consequences, right? So don't just be downloading anything off of the internet. But like, I would much rather live in that world than live in a world where Apple continues to capture more and more consumer transactions in the United States
and arbitrarily locks everyone down, and no one can do anything about it. Like, absolutely. Yep. Hargeet, any thoughts that you have on the topic before we round it up?
Just specifically on this whole arena, look, I think ultimately, like, we think of these top players. What this allows is, like, Epic is not like one of the big platforms, right? It's just a big game that made it bigger in Unreal Engine, right? So it's any player out there can now look at this world and say, hey, I can be the store of choice that's going to be across everything, right? I can give you a Windows store, a Mac store, an iOS store, a Google store, whatever you want, Linux store. I can give you one store, and you can have your app everywhere and your game everywhere, whatever you want, right? Create an ecosystem that's better and more cohesive. Now, that could be one of these big players. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. The beauty of this is it allows innovation, right? Right now, you're locked. When you unlock things, you create a Steam, which out of nowhere just came up and said, you know what? I don't like the way things are working. You used to be able to play games on PC forever. And then, Valve comes around, says, oh, maybe, you know what?
And
this isn't good enough.
By the way,
I'm going to create a better way, right? And that's what happens.
Christopher K brings up a very super valuable point. Even though he is, and we're being real here, we're having real talk, right? Everyone's talking about how he's not the righteous man. He's the wrong messenger. This drives the point home. He's saying he should go fix Unreal Engine 5. Mark my words. In the next 10 years, the next fight, he will be the big elephant in the room. And guess who's going to be fighting? They'll be fighting to break up the monopoly that is Unreal Engine 5.
Unreal Engine 5 is becoming
there's enough out there, but yes, that could happen.
He'll be getting that
in the next 10 years. He will be getting that smoke very soon. That's what this is just business. This is how it's going to work. So, you know what I mean?
But that's what I'm hoping people get out of this. Is it like, don't think of it as Epic is now the thing, or even Microsoft or Xbox. It's the openness allows innovators to come in and do innovative things, and you can find a cool thing that happens that would just never happen before because it was locked down, right? So I'm hoping that happens, and you get the store du jours that come around that say, hey, my store is going to offer these awesome benefits, right? And this is why you should use mine over somebody else's, right? And that can absolutely happen. There can also be stores curated for specific things to say, like, I'm a enterprise focused store, so I'm only going to offer things that are needed for a phone that's running on an enterprise thing, right? So that way, when you buy a corporate phone, you don't have all that other garbage. It's going to be locked and curated to the stuff that is only relevant to enterprises. That could absolutely happen now, right? And that is a valuable thing for the consumer, right? There is a lot of phones out there are corporate phones. And that if you could lock that down and say, you can't download some stupid XYZ crap that's going to cause problems for my enterprise, that's fantastic.
Yep.
That is a massive value you give.
Master W. Yes.
You just say, I'm turning off the... Right, I'm turning off the Google store, or I'm turning off the Apple store, and I'm only enabling the enterprise store that I authorize. Dude, you have no idea how
on
much
Windows that exists.
Huge.
Imagine you have no idea how much that would be so awesome, because that just totally eliminates so much crap and liability that you have on a corporate device. So these are the things that happen in innovation. We just think of it from a gaming perspective. I'm just thinking it from an actual world perspective, right? It's such a big deal. I hope this continues on and they don't fight it, and we can now finally have an open platform where this is the thing that happens. We lock down Windows in enterprises. That's why it sells so much. is we lock that crap down. You cannot install stuff.
Absolutely.
You cannot. It's all authorized stuff only, right? And we make sure as the enterprise IT folks, this is what you get to have, right? And that way we control the device and control what happens because of liability. We need to make sure you don't exfil data. You don't, do something stupid that causes us to get hacked by somebody in cyber attack. All that stuff. You can control it. That is what we want. That is the nirvana of having a mobile that would do that. It's getting there, but it'd be so awesome if the store itself is curated stuff.
To download Outlook or something, like some official app that you need for your job. So you go to the App Store, you type in Outlook, and Outlook is not the first thing that pops up. It's the third thing because Apple or Google are just like, well, we want to tell this ad space for the first yes. And it's just like, that's absurd. Right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
I should not have that experience in a corporate, like trying to install corporate applications on my phone. That's absurd. We shouldn't have that anymore.
I want you guys to help me address Game Logic's question. And by the way, the great Game Logic was going to join us. I didn't speak on it because the man, we all have life. He was a little busy today, but he was able to jump in the chat real quick, and he poses a very interesting question. I wanted to have him on here because he as well thinks great about these topics, so it's always great to have him here. He's in the chat and he asked a very pertinent question, which is, I question whether or not it's okay to say that walled garden ecosystems can't exist. The market voted and it said it was acceptable. It limits the business model and that are allowed to compete. Now, for me, real quick, I would say that was the truth, but at that time, they were all on an even keel. We hadn't reached the market conditions where there were monopolistic potentials. Right, and the equation changes when one overarches all of them, right, to the point where it needs to be looked at. I think we're at that level now. That's why it's a little different. I'm sorry, Lucius, please speak on it.
What I was going to speak exactly on that. It's all about the size, right? You can have a walled garden inside of like a smaller ecosystem where people understand that what they're paying for a premium. These are things that exist inside of many places, like you have closed walled garden hyper specific premium experiences that happen elsewhere, but those are boutique experiences for a very limited group of people, right? When you are when the consumer transactions in the United States are crossing such a threshold and where most people are doing most of their transactions on their phones, this starts to becoming an issue when those phones are locked down to the point that they have very specific payment processing that funnels everything through them, right? And I think that's what changes everything. Once you get to a point where you're so big that you are taking up a vast majority of the air in the room, that's when we start saying, okay, this walled garden thing can't exist anymore because you are capturing too many people and impacting the market too much for you to have this much control over your own ecosystem. Like you just can't do this.
This was loosely the basis that Sony was trying to fight Microsoft on about buying Call of Duty, right? Oh, they're too big. Oh, this specific thing has such an outsized influence on the market. If they're allowed to own it, it will affect us adversely, right? That was literally what. And whether you think they're crying and why don't you go make your own, market conditions were such that they had a valid thing to cry and fly and rye and lie and cry about, right? It just is what it is.
And unlike the PlayStation situation, where it was essentially just PlayStation and some governments versus essentially everybody else in the industry, this is a very different situation. Many people, from the biggest publishers like Microsoft and Epic to some of the smallest developers, have all complained about not only the 30% cut that Apple takes, but the fact that you are forced to utilize their payment process. Those combination of things really lock you down. And if it was just Tim Sweeney trying to get richer, complaining about it, I would get people's pushback. but this is something that if you've been following these spaces for a long time, this is something that many people have complained about. Not just
yes.
wigs that are trying to add an extra $1 billion to their like profile in that quarter. No, I'm talking about like some of the smallest developers that you think of, single man teams that are using those applications as a way to be able to like pay for their livelihoods and to like keep their family fed. Imagine those people outside of all the taxes and everything else that they have to pay from their income. 30% of their value gets taken away from them, and they have no choice on the matter. None.
The Everborn video game will be susceptible to 30% cost when he eventually releases it on the App Store, unless he has another store that has better options for him as a business. This gives him another option. That's all we're saying. It's about giving people other options. Otherwise, if you, single business owner, I'm not talking about Apple versus Google versus big time publisher. We're talking about a single man team. We're talking about Everborn Saga. He won't be able to make this product and have it be successful, because as successful as it is, 30% gets taken from them, right? And by the way, you can say, well, it's their store. They can do whatever they want. Yes, they can, until they are the size of the damn country. Now they need to follow a new set of rules, right? That's what's going on here, right? But I think it's a very nuanced discussion, and I think it's really awesome that we have it, because people like me, will our initial take on it is, come on, they're business. They're allowed to have business. Why can't you just be allowed to do business like that? And what really taught me that, what really changed my mind and evolved me in that mental space, is what happened during COVID with Amazon, with them basically becoming exponentially the richest company in the world, and then what they did with that, right? That started helping me understand why those monopolistic rules, maybe the rules of the highway maybe exist, because you can't then become the world's store and then start going, oh, okay, you're doing this cool, so I'm going to make sure I take your idea, put you to the back of the line, and I'm going to steal your idea and put myself in the front of the line. Oh, now I'm making more money. Oh, you make I don't know, a baseball bat. Here's the Amazon baseball bat, 10%
Amazon
cheaper.
Basic. Yeah,
exactly, right. They started doing more and more. That is unfair in the market, because you're literally then eating off of everyone, and they can never compete. And that becomes a problem, because you're at the largest scale possible, to the point where no one can even compete with you.
Like
that's where we think Apple is.
The real life example is if Amazon owned a store and everything at the front of the store was Amazon branded, every single thing that you could ever want. But to be able to get the stuff that wasn't Amazon branded, you had to walk 3 miles through the entire store, not get lost, find the exact location you needed to find, and after
find the trap hole that you have to press to then go down to the basement to where you find it,
and then you'll be able to buy a product from somebody else who's not Amazon.
That's right. So that's what it is. But thank you guys for this conversation. I think this is a very useful conversation. Let me round up some of the stuff that's in the chat right now. We got the great Boti in the spot. He gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea how your support means. Thank you guys for being here and always supporting us with this. Thank you so much. I do see we still have some moving and shaking in the polls. I guess it is conventional knowledge in our chat here that no one is expecting $70 games. Like no one. 2% is expecting $70 games. 28% is expecting $80 games. 16% is expecting $90 games, but the vast swath of us are expecting 55%. That is, are expecting $100 games, and we're not talking about the special edition. We're talking about the BBL, not the BBL edition, not the chick on the top of the car with the jiggle physics. No, we're talking the base, low grade peasantry. The day it comes out for everybody. That's what you're playing. You're not even getting the special wigs. You know what I'm saying? That would be $100 to me. That is a wild world we live in.
$100 is
wild
too much
world
of a jump. I understand that,
and that's even for the digital version. What?
Yeah,
wild.
I think that $80 obviously is still too much, and I thought $70 is too much for a damn video game. But I think that unless you want to literally piss everybody off, there's already been a very, very recent bump in that. Just take advantage of the bump. And then
Mhm.
now you can sell the early version for $100. You can sell the super ultimate premium version for $140 or something like that. Like, and there will be plenty of people who buy those versions, those higher end versions of it. But if you charge $100 for the basic version, I think that you push away a lot of people.
I agree. Yeah. JB 1521 in the chat says GTA 6 is the only one that can do it in his estimation. I would have agreed with you. And then Nintendo came out with like, you know, Mario Horizon.
Yeah.
And then up the ante. And everybody went, okay. So at this point, I don't know, man. I don't know. You would think that somebody else would be the one to bring that about. But what Nintendo did, I was like, I'm not sure I'm okay with that one.
Yeah, that was hands down the most surprising aspect of that entire thing. The industry had been indicating for a very long time, hey man, we might be increased prices. Hey, these things might cause prices to go up, blah blah blah. Like, so there's been talk for over a year that the $70 price bump was not enough for some of these publishers. So the bump to $80, obviously, as much as I don't like, is not as surprising. Nintendo being the one to do it, that's crazy.
And that has been my battle in our Discord for days now. Right, I get it, everyone wants to do it, but Nintendo, who we have used as the reference designers, hey, Microsoft and Sony, look at them, right? Don't do exactly what they're doing, because we do like the newest, latest, best ray traced games and this and that, but maybe do a little bit of what they're doing, because they're keeping costs in check. They're also still making great games, blah, 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 blah.
And there's no
keep using them as a reference design.
You can't look me in the eye and tell me Mario Kart World cost as much as Forza Horizon 5. Yet Forza Horizon 5 came out as a $60 game, and Mario Kart World is coming out at $80. That's crazy to me. So it's not about profitability. It's not about like we need to make, because this game costs us so much money. Like, you can't look me in the eye and tell me that Mario Kart World costs as much as Spider-Man 2 at like $300 million.
Well, first off, Nerds and Other Legends says, 1 year from now, if consoles cost what they cost now, will GTA 6 still move the needle? I also expect GTA to be delayed again, which, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised.
Should we get into that fun topic?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also think that, man, the people who are left who don't have a PS5 and Xbox Series S and S, those are the casuals. Those are the people who typically wait for a price drop, and then they buy the newest 2K with the 199 PS3 or whatever, right? Like there's always they find an opportunity to be able to, like, okay, now I can jump in, really play a bunch of these games, and all these games are on discount, so I could buy a bunch of games for $20 each and play a bunch of bangers, right? That doesn't exist anymore. That world that we used to exist in, that's not a real thing. So I really do question the casuals that would typically lead towards a huge amount of sales from GTA and subsequently the new consoles. Do we see any movement there, especially during a recession? I don't know.
See, everything you're saying is why I keep saying people are going to start going "arr" again. This is going to start happening again, because the love of games won't go down. The hype cycles won't go down. The backlogs ain't going down. When I look at my backlog right now, it's even ballooning bigger. What's a happy accident for me, what's happy for me is subscription services are able to defray those costs. But my worry, right, and this is not a rah-rah boomba for Game Pass. My worry is this is exactly a funneling to Game Pass. That's what this is. But when they get there, will that then become the frog in the boiling pot, right? Where slowly prices will rise on Game Pass as well. And all of that will equal, arr. I'm telling you.
So, but you're talking about hardware, right? So, look, it might seem like it's a lot and whatever, but ultimately, you know, you can still for $380 get a next gen console, a current gen console, right? So, you know, whatever. If you want to get into it, you'll get into it, and if you want to pay more, like, you can still get the original launch PS5 digital edition for $400 on their website. It's still available, so you can, for $400 or $380 you can still get an Xbox and or PlayStation and get the current gen. So it's not like it's the end of the world, but
no, absolutely not.
It hasn't come down. And if you want to play, you're gonna pay. That's just the way it goes, right?
And that secondary market, that used market is going to be really lucrative.
Well, pirate what? Are you gonna like steal a console from somebody? Like, how are you gonna pirate? Pirate requires you to either go to PC, fine, but those aren't cheap either, right? And those parts have become exorbitantly expensive as well. So
what we mean by pirate is for years now, right? Xbox has not been hacked because they've had the dev mode. It's all good. PS4/5 has been hacked, but there hasn't been that much energy there because there's not really been a need to put much energy there. When you're squeezing the consumer, when day one, the only way to play. That's right. When the only way to play GTA 6 is with a console.
We're not even talking about software.
No, understand where we're going here. When the only way to play GTA 6 is on a console, now there's incentive to hack that console.
Yeah.
So
I'll buy your console. I'll buy your console and then subsequently hack it and then pay nothing for the games. That's
right. That's where it goes.
And that,
or
that
buy it used, hacked, right? This is the problem.
Do you expect GTA to sell under 10 million?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
under
not.
20 million?
I honestly think,
are we talking is this scenario still talking about them selling it at $100? Because I think that they sell gangbusters at $80. But the moment that you start selling it at $100 for the base price, I think that's when it starts impacting those sales.
Well, so here's the issue that I'm having. Maybe we're having a little bit of a different conversation. To me, I don't care. I don't think that any price that they price GTA at realistically within that realm will move the needle too much as far as stopping purchases, but it will be the bad precedent that it sets for everything else. GTA is the wrong one to use for this because people will do it. No matter what the hell you put it. Oh, this one's 120. People will do it. And that's GTA. But what that means is from then on, the precedent is set, and there goes Zelda, and there goes the next Halo, and there goes your poison.
And there will be a game where they try it and it will fail miserably, right?
Yes.
And so that's kind of the way it goes, right? So I don't know if we can realistically expect all games to go to 80 or 90 or whatever.
No.
Right? I don't think that's going to be realistic.
I just think this is them continuing to test the waters.
Yeah.
And every time they do, we must speak in loud voice. No, on digital. No, you want to test these waters? Put physical back in my hand. You want to make physical $100+? Make the statues worth something. Make it actually valuable. I'll pay $100. Then make the digital 40, 50. Because now you're actually giving me an option and I will see the value in your 100 because I want that statue. As long as you're not doing that, my voice is no, loudly, whenever possible.
Great, but then we have Game Pass. So I like most of the games that I'm going to play are already in Game Pass, so I don't really care. The $80 thing, when Xbox does it, isn't relevant to me. It is more relevant when others do it. It depends on the publisher, right? So, for instance, Ubisoft, I'll just get Ubisoft Plus. If they make it $100 for the game, I don't care because I'm just getting Ubisoft Plus, right? So that eliminates that problem for me. EA, if they start going down that path, well, it comes in. I don't even bother with their games most of the times. I just wait for them to come to Game Pass because EA Play is in Game Pass. So I'll just wait. If it comes to Game Pass, cool. I'll play your game. So it just depends on the publisher, right? If a game that's like iffy for me, it is like a turn-based Japanese RPG. I may want to play it, may not want to play it. If it's $80, I'm going to say, I'll wait. Maybe I won't ever play it, right? Because it really there's so much content now. I don't need to worry about it. I have so much coming to me on my subscriptions already that it's like, well, do I have to go out of my way to go get this, right? So that's kind of the world we're in. And so, yes, it's a viable thing that maybe somebody will pirate, but that's already the case. I don't know that this is going to change that much because you can always get things at discounts, and most people don't always just go buy everything anyway. So we'll see how it goes, right? If it's Call of Duty, are they going to pirate that? Well, you'll get caught because it's going online.
You know darn well that Call of Duty will be $100. It just will. At this point,
it will at least be $80.
It will at least be 80. It will at least be it will at least be
$80
at least. And that's where it'll start with the Gem Pop version, and then your specialty, and then all that. I guess what the ultimate point here is. Shout out to the great Aaron. I love your chat there. Don't worry, games will come on Tamagotchi. Calm down. It's fine. Look, the ultimate point that we're making here is the more you experiment in this way, the more you squeeze people in this way, I see it puts strain on an already straining economy as far as gaming is concerned, and it brings me a little bit of concern, right? And I it's not to say that it's all over. It's not to say that piracy is going to be the world of the day. And I bet there are very smart people in all of these ecosystems paying close attention to how these reactions will work, right? All I'm saying is, like, those of us who love this ecosystem as much as we do, or those of us who love this community as much as we do, the more these businesses do these things, it pushes the fringe to the forefront. And they've done a long time. It's been a long time work to push them to the fringe, like they did in the movie and the TV industry, right? And this stuff will bring it back into the mainstream in a bigger way than it has been before, and that kind of worries me a little bit. Even Nintendo doing it, like their digital rights changes and things like that, all of that, it's all very worrying, heading down that line of getting to back in what we would consider the bad old days of the early 2000s and the 90s, right? I'm not saying that that's where we're going 100%, but these are not good moves that stop those things from happening, right? This is undoing some of Steve Jobs' hard work, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
I look at this entire thing, and to bring it back to what Boom said a while ago, when he was still here, he spoke about the video game crash of the 80s. And a lot of people have been speaking about a potential video game crash, but if one does occur, it's not going to be for the same reasons that 1980s.
That early 80s one was full of trash, wasn't it? Like it was a bunch of trash games just coming out left and right.
people were just trying to make a simple buck. And if you think that games are broken now, brother, games are broken now because games
play
are complex and have like many different systems interacting with each other. We're talking about ET levels of bad constantly being pushed out in front of the consumer's face, to the point that consumers no longer had trust in games being quality. That's why the Nintendo seal of approval was such a big deal at that time. I don't believe that games aren't high quality. I just think that the price point that they're asking for and the purchasing power of the average person is not aligned. Yeah, I think that that's what's going to cause for the biggest problems, because you have whales that have plenty of money, can spend however much they want, and there are certain people. Just because you got money doesn't mean you like to spend it, right?
Oh hell no, bro! You look, I can count on one hand how many $70 games I've bought, and I will tell you I can count on 0 hands how many $80 games I'm gonna buy. Hell no! Oh hell no! I am 10 toes down on that one. Doesn't mean I can't afford it, but it's ridiculous, is what that is.
Ridiculous. But think about it for like the average American who doesn't even have $500 in their bank account, right? That person.
And it's the global industry. We should also realistically
$100 game.
think about everybody in the world.
Yes.
And to that point, as Game Logic was saying, the global crash only hurt America. Globally, they were fine, right? So it's a global look that we have, that 30-foot view we must pay attention to. And the reason why I say what I say as far as piracy and this, that, and the third, that's what's happening in Brazil. That's what's happening in most of the Eastern Europe. That's what's happening in a lot of places where the price to people's cost of living is out of whack. There's
no way they can afford this stuff, right?
We're in those places where they are there. In those places where they are 100% there now, the secondary market booms. The secondary market meaning used games, used hardware, and piracy booms. That's why I keep saying what I'm saying, because the global market has told you where we're going.
Nintendo announced that they are not going to sell the Switch 2 in places like the Caribbean, which I find interesting. But like in those places, I very much assume the secondary market and piracy because they literally can't even get it.
Yep.
Like even
Absolutely.
if they have money, they can't even go to the store and buy a Switch 2. Nintendo's not going to sell it there.
Yep. Absolutely. And shout out to the great Game Logic. We look forward to having you on soon, whenever you can, sir. Always appreciate your takes on the topics. This was an especially interesting week for all this kind of back and forth and moving and shaking. So I'm sure that more of these conversations will be had on this channel and others. So we will definitely have you back. But I don't know, man. I think we should leave it there. I think it's been an interesting conversation as far as what we think, where we think the industry is going. There's a lot more to discuss, but I think that'll be had in our Discord. So if you're not part of the Discord, you know what it is. Join our Discord. You will be susceptible to the gate master, the hand that is Lucius Augustus in our Discord. So be on your best behavior, or you will be banned to the Shadow Realm. But Lucius, sir, we appreciate you being here. Tell the people where they can keep up with your ongoings and where they can communicate with you on a weekly basis.
Do not look for me. The only place that you will be able to find me is the GCP Discord. Anywhere else, if you do happen to find me, I will not acknowledge you. Just if for some strange reason we happen to be in the same city, you hear my voice and you're just like, don't talk to me. Don't talk.
Damn. All right. Interesting. And the one and only, the great one, the one who makes every podcast better wherever he finds himself, the great Hargeet Chani. Sir, I see your channel is doing great numbers these days. You're moving and shaking on them YouTube streets as well. Shout out to you. Good congratulations. And put the channel information in the chat here so more people can find themselves, be able to join and tell people where they can keep up with your ongoings on a weekly basis, sir.
Yeah, so you can subscribe to my channel. It's Hargeet Chani 1 on YouTube. Let me see if I can just get the URL for you. And
please,
and then if you want to pick up my book, which everybody should know by now, you can go to shop.chani.us. It's got the links to Amazon and whatnot. Can I just post through the stream?
Yeah. You should be able to just post it right in there.
Let's see if it works. Okay, cool. Excellent. So it seems to have gone through, right? Okay. And so you can pick up my book if you want to. As far as podcasts, I'll be on tonight with Fonz at 7 p.m. US Eastern on Fonz Gaming.
The great Fonzarelli, absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
And then tomorrow with Web Dave at 7 p.m. US Eastern as well on Web Dave's channel. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, we do have this fan event going on. Mm-hmm. So as we all know, June Showcase, Xbox decided not to do Fan Fest. We as a community have decided we're going to put something together. We're close to being able to tell you about this, but we will have an in-person watch party in LA, and it'll be a Fan Fest type event. There will be activities and giveaways and stuff like that. So there will be stuff there. We're trying to make it as good as we can. Unfortunately, with short notice, we didn't have enough time to really do the due diligence and actually get a bigger venue, but we have what we have. We will have a raffle for people that are fans to attend if they want to try to win a attendee thing from our ticket from our event. So we will have that hopefully in the next day or two. We'll be ready to roll this out, but just keep an eye for it. We will send out notices and put that out, put the word out for everyone. Just to be able to go in, enter the raffle, and if you get chosen, hopefully you can come out. I
wish I could be there. I canceled my flight, my hotel before you guys did all this, and now it'll be very damn near impossible to rekindle. And of course, wifey found out, so now I have other activities I'm unfortunately locked into. But next year, I promise I will be in the spot. Shout out to Ben Kenobi, yourself, all the great folks doing great work, man. I hope it works really, really well, man. That's
we
awesome.
hope it'll be a good event. Look, this is the first time we're doing it, so there might be some hitches, but overall, we think we're going to have something good here. It is, it's the same event that they would have actually showcased, so we're going to be playing what they would have been playing. So it's hopefully it'll be good.
We see a lot of super interesting, awesome people. A la Paris Lily, Major Nelson.
I'm not gonna like.
I'm just telling you all the ones I saw on them Twitter streets. That's all I saw.
We're trying to make things happen. Even more interesting things than that, but even those guys are pretty interesting, but even more interesting.
Very cool. Very cool.
So we are trying to make it as fan festy as we can. We will see what we can pull off.
You sons of bees are gonna make me buy an emergency ticket, aren't you? You sons of.
Well, okay, I'm going to talk to you after this, and you might be very interested in what's happening. But anyway, you know, but definitely, guys, you know, keep an ear out for what's happening. We will put more details out. Hopefully, in the next day or two, you'll be able to enter the raffle, and we'll finalize what's going to actually happen after that, and you'll be able to know what you know what we're going to have in store for you. But yeah, look forward to that next year, assuming Xbox doesn't come back to doing this. We will do a much better fan fest because we will have ability to plan it out much more earlier.
Have it more
so
established.
We will have a bigger venue, have more fans. Right now, it's going to be U.S. focused only. So you know, unfortunately, we just didn't have enough to be able to get all the liability stuff for everywhere else and all that. So it's U.S. focused only. But next year, hopefully, we'll be able to expand that out, have everybody in the world come out. You know, but it is. We'll do what we can. It's going to be a smaller venue this time, but at least hopefully it'll be a fun thing for everybody. So let's go.
Shout out to Infinite Umbra in the chat being a little slanderous. Yeah, sure. Get us all a round trip.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's it. Shout out to Ben Kenobi and shout out to Holly and all the great community members that are keeping that spirit alive. I really wish I could join in. We'll talk about it in the DMs and whatnot. But yes, if you have a chance to, an opportunity to go, y'all should definitely do it. It was such a great experience for me when I got a chance to go. And if I get a chance to go this year and or next, I definitely will. But I think that's it, man. We've done it. Shout out to the great Everborn Saga, who's also able to join us. If you happen to be in Jersey and you're able to join him, why don't you tell him that GCP sent you? You know, I'm sure he'd really appreciate that. Shout out to the great Boomstick, who's also able to lend his voice for just a few minutes. You know, it's been a great conversation, but yeah, I think that's it, man. Hargeet, Lucius, anything else? If not, I think we're good.
Let's go.
Lucius, how about you? I think we're good, right?
We're good.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for being here, as usual, and see y'all next week. Peace.